Opening weekend for the major series has already been a big one, with international and European splits taking to Daytona's high banks yesterday and today. But it's the Americas region's turn to kick off 2025. A move back to Daytona for this opening round brings back memories and forges a new chapter in the major series history book at the same time. And we could not be happier to be joining you all for it. Welcome to Pit Stop TV and the virtual Daytona Beach, Florida. I'm Andrew Cardinale IV with Bryant Lucas and Scott Shive alongside, and it's a pleasure to join you from the virtual Daytona International Speedway, the virtual World Center of Racing, for coverage of the 2025 Major Series. Today's coverage from Daytona is brought to you by the Major Series, Majors Garage, and by Whiplash SimCams. And Bryant, it is so good to be here opening up 2025 with a bang, back on Daytona's high banks. It's moved around. This event has moved around a little bit, the opening event anyways, to Watkins Glen, Fuji, a few different places, but it's good to be back here at Daytona to open up 2025.
Yes, for us endurance racers, this is the event of all events. This is the race you want to win. And I have tried for many years, but this track is just amazing. Hard braking down into turn one. So very hard to get down in there. Lots of crashes in there. Then you go through the S's, turn two. That's single file pretty much through there. Then you go down to the International Horseshoe where people seem to dive bomb quite a bit. And then the Western Horseshoe where it's just so wide and then it narrows right in all the way through the horseshoe, then back onto the banks. Down the back straightaway to a fast Le Mans chicane where, man, it gets intense. We've had plenty of issues down there in the last two splits, and then down back past the line. It's a simple lap, but it's full of hard, narrow corners. Look out for turn four. That is the kink. A lot of drivers struggle going too wide through there. It's just, there's nothing like racing on the banks of Daytona.
And Scott, I know you're kind of a newbie to this kind of situation. You do a lot of short track racing with us here at Pit Stop TV, but to take three different classes of car types, three different classes on these high banks, this 3.56 mile road course that is Daytona on a speedway as well. How exciting is it for you to make that transition from a lot of short track stuff to this big sports car industry, if you will, and go racing this evening? Of course, you're not racing, but you'll be joining us for the racing anyway.
I'll be joining you here tonight. It's absolutely excellent. I love doing a lot of different stuff as a broadcaster because us broadcasters loves all form of racing, whether it be dirt, endurance, formula, no matter what it is, we love it all here in the booth. And I'm excited to be here tonight for this endurance style racing, especially like you said, Bryant, at Daytona. What an infamous racetrack this is, especially its road course on the inside. We will see a lot of dive bombs, a lot of single file night, but these drivers above all will have to have patience. That's going to be the key tonight, Andrew.
And a big story tonight is going to be the GTPs. Not to give iRacing any flack, but the GTPs have an insane amount of grip with the new update, and it gives them the ability to send the cars into places they never were able to before. And a lot of the GT3 drivers and the LMP2 drivers don't realize how grippy those cars are. They just have an insane amount of grip and an insane corner speed.
Let's take a look at the series schedule for 2025. This is a really good look at a really diverse schedule. Daytona 2.4 opening things up for us this evening. Next up, it's the Intimidator on February the 9th. Then we go to GT World Challenge Racing on March 16th at Road America. Then it's the World 600 on April 6th at Charlotte Motor Speedway with the NASCAR Gen 4 machines. Finally, we get to the month of May. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be bringing a Speedway 500 to Pit Stop TV with the Major Series. Of course, the IndyCar, the current IndyCar, the IR18. Going to be a lot of fun there on May 4th. And then it's Majors at Le Mans time, the Le Mans 2.4, followed by the Majors 24. And I've heard that date might move around just a little bit, but keep an eye on things. And we'll have, of course, the Majors 24 here on Pit Stop TV. The GP of Miami there in July. Throwback Indy cars at Homestead Miami Speedway, couldn't be more fun. The World Series of Asphalt there on August 17th. Super late models at New Smyrna, that's right in our wheelhouse here at Pit Stop TV. Then Petite Le Mans with more IMSA class racing on September 7th. We have the Southern 500 in October. NASCAR Next Gen machines at Darlington Raceway, also right in our wheelhouse here at Pit Stop TV. Then we do something a little bit different for us. We take the Gen 3 supercars down to Bathurst for the Bathurst 500. And finally, some formula racing to cap things things off. The Japanese Grand Prix, an event I really hold near and dear to my heart since covering majors back in 2018 with LSR TV. So this is a really, really diverse, really healthy schedule, and I'm looking forward to kick things off here this evening at Daytona. Cars are headed to the grid. Let's get into the iRacing.com session and take a look at who is where on this starting grid. Corbin Lenaway is going to lead us to the green flag with Mateus Carvalho from second place, Nathan Dowd from third, Tom Abramidas from fourth place. Starting fifth, it'll be Ross Banfield. Sixth, Christian Abate. Seventh, it'll be Brian, I'm not even going to try the last name. We'll learn that one at some point, but it's going to be Jesse Canales from the eighth position. And finally, Miguel Torres and Eric Biggs in the top 10. Now, this is going to go by position, by driver. We're going to let the rest of the field go by. It will go right on through GTP, LMP2, and GTD. But next up, Bryant, we've got to talk about the Whiplash SimCams race details. This is a 145-minute race. Let me change that. 145-minute race. Briefly, we'll do it live. There we go. Unlimited tires, 100% fuel. Full course yellows are possible. We'll talk more about that later, with open setup and one fast fix if these guys need it. Are you ready, Bryant Lucas?
I am ready. This is what all of us endurance racers wait for. If I pop a gasket, I apologize. I've been waiting for this all weekend.
I'm ready for this. Scott, are you ready?
Oh, I am ready. I haven't been waiting for it all weekend, but when you told me about the Daytona 2.4, I knew that it was probably endurance racing, and I got quite excited because, again, it's something outside of my wheelhouse, something new for me to understand and be able to hear in the booth, and I'm excited for all the racing action we'll have tonight because we're going to have quite a lot of it between these three classes.
And of course, these classes will split up a little bit, give a little bit of separation between GTP and LMP2, then between LMP2 and GTD. But here we go into the restart zone. We are racing at Daytona. It's the Daytona 2.4 in the Major Series.
Yeah, they did do a 10-second class split for each class, so they're going to be nice and spread out here.
Down here into the S's, side by side, almost very dangerous side by side. Want to get single filed out as fast as possible as they head here into the end-tile horseshoe, still side by side between leaders. Spinner inside.
That's
Keep in mind, if we
sitter.
do get three cars spun out at once, that will bring out the caution. All right, and that is very likely at this time.
There's two around outside of the International Horseshoe very quickly having problems. We'll get the grid out of the way and just talk about what's going on here up front as, well, have some technical difficulties lap one. It wouldn't be the start of a season without something going on, right?
No, it would not, but they are certainly putting on the show here. Looks like we're going to stay green, not quite enough cars off. In splits, in the International Split 1, there was a caution right off the bat, and they stayed clean the rest of the way. So it looks like they did a good start here, but I'd say the next 10 laps, look out. Yeah, in the lead right now, we've got Mathis Carvalho. He is in that 625 Acura GTP, doing a great job there at the front. Second place is going to be Nathan Dowd in the number 7. He's doing a great job up there. Another Acura. A big thing about the Acuras, last year when they were created, they were the fastest GTP. And keep in mind, Majors does not do BOP. Scott?
Lap 1 being completed here. We still got that 625 in the lead, but right there behind them, these cars are close together still as we have completed the first lap. These GTP cars up front, as we know, the hyper cars are extremely fast, especially through this intercourse. Back here, looking at the LMP2, this is first place of Warling. Right behind him is Nash. These LMP2s have gotten single filed out much more, but Robert Nash looking here on the hunt for the lead early on.
And this is not Travis Warling's first race of the weekend. He raced in one of the other races, I know, because he did a protest. I believe he was in a GT3 then. But here, LMP2 car, he's taking the lead that Garen Bratton left behind in the last two races.
Looking at GTD here deeper in the field, you've got Eric Staropoli leading the way, Trevor Vavrovsky sitting in the second spot, Christian Challoner in third, Justin Rector fourth spot, Brian Bennett fifth, so deep in the field overall, but leading the way in GTD, 3 Porsches, a Corvette, and a Mercedes, your top 5.
Yeah, you see they're at the back of the GT3 field. They've got an LMP working through the field as well as one towards the front there. Those were part of those spinners at the beginning of the race. The big key here is watching the groupings. All right, the GTPs are just coming down into turn 1 here. The GT3s are on NASCAR 1 and 2, and the LMP2s are on 3 and 4. Now, as these groups clash, that's where chaos ensues.
That's a big thing. You have to be patient. Talked about it earlier. That's a big thing we're going to see tonight, especially as the GTPs start to get into the traffic of the GTDs, because especially between those two cars, it's a significant speed difference between them as we see these cars still single filed out, trying for that hunt. Nash right here behind Warling. They've made the pass. Nash is now out front, Warling behind looking to take it back. But again, especially like you said, Bryant, they're going to have to be patient tonight.
It's a 2.4-hour race at Daytona. We've got probably 2 or 3 pit stops, unlimited tires. It is going to be a challenge of saving your tires through a whole run. These LMP2s will go for about 50 minutes to an hour on a tank of fuel.
Here's a look at your LMP2 lead. Robert Nash, Travis Warling, as Scott mentioned, leading the way now in LMP2. We'll go back up to Mateus Carvalho in GTP, leading the way there. So you'll notice on the ticker on the left side of your screen, red numbers, that is all GTP. Blue, that is all LMP2, and yellow is all GTD. We kept that from the Majors 24 to be consistent. Up front, a couple of Acuras drafting side by side for third is Tom Abramitis and Ross Banfield. They'll battle down into turn number 1, but Mateus Carvalho goes fastest.
Turn 1, a treacherous corner, different braking points for how your car is set up. So you've got to make a difference up for the car in front of you. Figure out where he's braking and see where you can take an advantage. Don't follow into these corners, guys. That's when you rear end.
You need that downforce. It's extremely important in these cars, especially the GTP and these LMP2s. But right here, still looking along with these GTPs. Wow, you can see Abramatis get real loose there right into the West Horseshoe. That's what we talked about. You don't want to follow it in too closely because it can get real dangerous, especially on the exits. Look at how much braking force these GTPs have. Now they exit out of turn number 6 onto NASCAR 1 and 2, carry the force all the way extremely fast at the high banks.
This is a pretty traditional camera angle here on board of Tom Abramatis, but let's transition to one that you don't see very often, driver's eye perspective. You can watch his hands on the wheel, or I guess his virtual hands on the virtual wheel, into the bus stop chicane, the Le Mans chicane, and look at how difficult it is to keep on that very narrow line, especially with a GTD just ahead. That's going to be an Acura NSX getting lapped already, and that is not where you want to be if you're in the GTD field. The very back end getting lapped first, that's usually not it.
Yeah, I love, you can see the gearing here. You saw him go through the bus stop, and he waited to shift down to 4th till he was in the middle. What that did is it helped turn the car and settle it for out of the chicane. So absolute pros here for top split. Second gear, out down turn 1 through the S's, now into the International Horseshoe.
This is one thing we haven't talked about. This just tricky course 1, 2, and 3 is probably one of the trickiest parts of this racetrack besides the Le Mans chicane on the back straightaway, because that overarching turn 1, you're downshifting while turning, while braking, which is a lot of things that drivers don't want to see because it is real easy to lose a car. We see we got a car on the outside slow in the GTP class. Actually,
an LMP2 being lapped. We'll check on who that is real quick. That is going to be driver Thomas Johnson out of Indiana in 17th in LMP2. So going a lap down
similar.
early. Yeah, they really do. I think the GTPs are slightly wider, but yeah, they are very similar race cars. And I'm noticing something here, Bryant. Into turn 1, these guys are making a very wide entry, wider than years past. Why is that?
They have more grip, and they're able to hold the speed higher. Like I said, grip. The new update gave them tons of grip, and it's all about your exit on that corner. The better the exit, the higher the speed through the S's and into the International Horseshoe.
I've got to jump back to you here, Bryant. As we go along this race, you talked about the track changing. Right now, we're in sun. Most of the track already in some shade as the sun is beginning to set. How will drivers handle these changes as we go through? Will tires start to wear down, as everything goes on, how will they manage, especially in areas like turn 1 and here in the S's?
Sports cars are completely different than any other car in the circuit. With sports cars, less fuel, faster car. So actually, older tires can be faster. As the track gets colder tonight, they're going to run their fastest laps. We will have a sunset tonight. We will finish this track. We'll finish this race in the dark tonight. The fastest laps will be the final laps of the race. 206 miles per hour is the highest speed on the track so far, and that's a dive down into turn 1 there where that was.
Carvalho now working into GTD traffic on the high banks. This is where you want to catch him, if anything. Although that was scary. That switch up at turn 2 or NASCAR 2 was always a hair raiser. But that's going to be a deep dive into the Le Mans chicane from Carvalho to get by those GTDs. And now working to the next batch of them. He'll dispatch of them quickly on the banks. This is almost dream scenario for Mateus right now to catch him on the oval. That is perfect stuff. It's when you catch him in the road course that you don't want that.
Yeah, you gotta be careful going on the apron. That is not allowed in the major series.
He just grazed it. I think he's okay.
It was very close. Got me a little nervous in my seat for just a second. Still working through traffic. Again, that's one of the most difficult things of tonight, working through this lap traffic. Wow, you can see all the grip that Carvalho has on the outside there as they work. This is chaos right here. This is what you were talking about, Brian.
Yes, these are the two classes crashing together. The GTP leader has gone out ahead of it, and it's all about running away. Second place, third place, and behind are all stuck in the inner side of this track, getting through traffic. That is the worst place to catch it. P1, he got away from it, and he is waving goodbye to the rest of the field.
It pays to be on it lap 1, lap 2 like that, Scott, to get through those first couple of laps with a big gap. That's why you saw Mateus get straight through the field. That's going to be close back up onto the banking. That was scary. What are you learning as a short track guy? And I'm going to keep billing you as a short track guy because that's what we know you as. What are you learning here that's different from ringing around one of your local tracks on a Saturday night to going on the high banks of Daytona in a GTP trying to get by these GTD's car?
Yeah, well, you watched it with Christian Abate right there. I mean, I think we've talked about it a good bit already. It's about managing traffic and having that patience. I think I'm going to talk about it all night long just because of how important it is. You might hear me on repeat about that because it is so important. When you get into multi-class racing like this, you have to make decisions almost even quicker than you would in a short track scene or a stock car scene, things like that. That's one reason people love IMSA racing is because of the multi-class. It just provides a whole nother element that you don't see anywhere else. Right here you see these three cars battling it out in the GTP class, and man, it is heating up between them up front as they tried to move through. But that's what I love. It's just different, and it's so cool to watch these cars navigate and weave between each other because it all goes to the intelligence and the talent of these drivers.
You're asked about LMP2. I'm going to drop back down here real quick to LMP2 cars. It's going to be Robert Nash still leading the way, Travis Worling second, Ozzie Milwane third. And we saw Ozzie on Wednesday night in the Sim Racing for the Kids event put on by Hip Motorsports. That was in a GT3 car. So a little bit different from Milwane. He's running the LMP2 this evening, the Dallara P217. It's a pretty solid race car. I've actually won myself in it, and I don't win very often, so if I can do it, anybody can do it, right? I mean, that's what I go with.
Yeah, that LMP2 race car has actually changed substantially in the last update. Grip, it's gone. Speed, where is it at? Nowhere. These cars have changed quite a bit. These rear ends like to step out really bad now, and they don't handle as good as they used to. They decided to take the grip away from the LMP2s and give a lot of it to those GTPs to create a better class difference than what we were having before.
That's one thing. You can see it through the standings right now. 8 seconds back to 6th place of Willard between those LMP2s. Nash and Worling right now almost tied to each other's bumpers at this point in the race. Gotta think both of them are playing their cards right now, maybe saving a little bit. I know you said, Brian, these cars get faster over time with having less fuel at these racetracks, but right now those front two are tied together. Meanwhile, everyone behind them struggling a little bit more, struggling with that loose grip, like you said, that they just don't have.
Yeah, and working together at this track can work. We've seen in years past, like last year, Redline Racing, they got two cars together and they pushed each other through the entire race for the Daytona 24, and they won the race. They bump drafted the whole race, and you can get together in these cars and get creative if you choose to.
Mateus Carvalho dominating so far in this race in GTP and, of course, overall, leading the way into the Le Mans chicane that time. Gets by some stragglers in the LMP2 field, and he's going to have more that he's working up to here shortly as we work on lapping the LMP2 field for the first time all night long. Now, you guys have talked about it a little bit. These guys are racing into the sunset. You can see the sun setting behind the grandstands here at the World Center of Racing. Let's take a look at the weather conditions so far. 69.5 degrees in the air, partly cloudy skies, 72 degrees on track. That's all going to drop, and it's going to be more and more difficult to build tire temps. So my question to you, Bryant, do you take tires earlier than later to make sure you've got temperature in them for the end of the race?
It takes about 4 laps to get these tires to prime temp. You're going to be pitting based on the people around you, and when these cautions fall, it's inevitable. I do see a caution falling. In the last 2 split 2s, there has been no cautions. The first split 1 for International, there was 2 cautions. For the European that just happened a few hours ago, there was 2 cautions back to back. And what happens when we have a back-to-back caution? That means there's no more cautions for an hour, and they went caution-free the rest of the way. They probably should have had one, but we were in the no caution zone.
Yeah, you spoke about it earlier, Brian, about those caution rules. I mean, we almost saw one into turn 1, the most treacherous area off the start of this race. And I think we'll see more of that chaos as these cars continue to lap each other. GTP almost out of the LMP. They're between LMP2s now, most likely out of it. Carvello, Biggs, other guys up here are working through that right now. But again, as we go along with that, we saw earlier Carvello trying to get around GTP, had to make a quick and decisive move out of NASCAR turn 2. There's going to be more hairy moments like that as we go along that could bring out our safety car, Andrew.
The cool things about the major safety car is you guys are saying the overall leader is putting cars a lap down. But in order to be a lap down, you have to be behind your class leader, because when the caution comes out, you will be sent past the overall leader to get behind your class leader. Oh. So it's all about being ahead of your class leader to be able to stay on the lead lap for your class.
Well, that's a bit more fair, because then every GTD would be down and a lap down already.
LMP2s as well, and we're even going to catch up to the back end of the GTP field here shortly at some point along the way. So for sure, that's always helpful to get those guys back up onto their proper lap as an LMP2 dives down out of the way. There's an old saying in racing, slow goes low. Learned that from my driving mentor, David Levine. Well, you're seeing it there. The LMP2 going low to the bottom of the racetrack, giving the entire outside of the racetrack to these faster GTP cars to go around and lap them. And, of course, we say lap loosely because, as Bryant just mentioned, it's a lap down to the overall leaders, but not yet a lap down to their class leaders.
Yeah, it makes it really nice because when we do all the wave buys and everything, it really saves a lot of the field, and it gives you the ability to play games, because when that safety car starts, pit lane is open, and you can play a game to try to get a lap back if you can play the game right.
Yeah, you mentioned it. One thing that I was just thinking about, we've talked a lot about the GTPs working through the GTD class and LMP2. Talk to me, Bryant, about what a driver in a GTD is doing. We just talked about it with Andrew mentioning, slower on the bottom. But how do you, as a driver in the GTD, knowing you're the slowest out here, at least just by your class, how do you work with that oncoming traffic, those faster cars of the LMP2s and GTPs?
Well, in a GT3, you have a longer relative on your side of behind you. You're not passing anybody except for cars in your own class, and you're going to come up on them so slowly, you're going to be able to see them from very far away. Now you got to keep your eyes in your rear, and you got to be in the right position. Look here at this GT3 here. You see how he's holding to those gold bars on the bottom? That's exactly how you should be holding that, and you don't got to worry about any GTPs or GT or LMP2s unless they start getting tangled together. A lot of GT3s, the ones that aren't as skilled, they like to float. And what it means to float is they'll hold about a car length above the gold bars on the banking. That is a big no-no because we need every inch of racetrack because we will go 4 wide on the banking.
A little bit of damage for the GTD race leader, Eric Staropoli. You can see it there on the left front of that race car. Try to zoom in and get a look at it. Yeah, you can see the dive planes are just a little bit bent up. The left front of that race car having some trouble. I don't think it's affecting him too much, but of course in the wind like that is going to slow you down to some degree, Brian. And it even looks like, I can't tell, but the left rear looks like it's got a little bit of extra camber. I could be wrong. Maybe that's just the setup to the car. Maybe he's just got it cambered over, but it looks like it has a little bit of extra camber. Like maybe he had a left side impact at some point.
Yeah, depending on what the internal of that steering arm looks like, he might be in trouble there on the pit stop. But based on the outer damage, he's got about 4 to 5 seconds of damage. It's not a ton, but it will slow you down just a little bit on the banking section. There's a lot of drafting going on at this track. You ever seen Miata's race here? It is insane.
Now explain what you mean 4 to 5 seconds, because that's normal talk to us iRacers, but for those at home that maybe don't iRace or don't do it as much, what do you mean by 4 to 5 seconds of damage?
So 4 to 5 seconds is you're going to be held for optional. Oh, we got a big wreck in the oh man, that's in the Le Mans chicane back there. We have a GTP hard to the wall. That's going to be Christian Abbott, the 09. He has got a rear end. He's in the middle of the backfield back there. Yep, there he is coming back onto track there.
Brian, I think he's going to need more than 2 to 3 seconds of pit stop damage for this incident for him back here.
Yes, he has lost his rear clip. A rear clip is an automatic about 12 seconds to 12 and a half, 12 minutes to 12 and a half minutes. He's got more damage on that car than that. He's going to be spending at least, it looks like Netcode may have put his rear clip back on there.
Well, of course, he's got the extra car he can use, so this is not where you want to use it, but he can use it here. And he likely will, and yes, he will. Immediately.
Yep.
Yeah, this was Christian Abate. We were riding along with him earlier when we were going through the LMP2 class. When he was moving through them, he's obviously in a GTP. He was running 5th at the time when this incident happened on back straightaway. Oh my goodness, 3 wide.
You
splitting Ozzy Milway and another. That was real close.
These GTP drivers, they get gutsy.
And you definitely have to manage that, I think, as a GTP driver. You've got to realize where you're at in the race, and is it worth doing a move like that this early? I always err on the side of caution usually. I'm going to say no, but these drivers, they don't think like me. They're not a broadcaster, they're a driver. They got the wheel in their hands. They're going crazy. So they're going to make those daring moves for sure, and they're going to be a little bit brazen on the racetrack, and we see that already. GTP drivers taking 3 wide moments where maybe I wouldn't personally. They've got the wheel in their hands, and it's up to them at the moment. And now working through the S's and into the International Horseshoe, we're watching second place Ross Banfield dance around through traffic. LMP2 on the inside, now a GTD. Here comes, actually that was a change for the race lead in GTD. Vavrovsky getting by Staropoli, so Staropoli falling back, and that's who they've just gone by. So a big change there in GTD. We're going to have to watch that through the rest of this race.
Borowski, he won one of the last splits. I can't remember if it was international or European, but I'm pretty sure he won one because I sent him to a broadcast booth.
Oh, and he just cut down in front of, I think that was Abramitis in the Porsche into turn 6. I'm glad Abramitis gave him that room, and it's a difficult dance, Scott, for somebody maybe who hasn't done this before. It's a very difficult dance to dance. being a GTD driver trying to get down in front of somebody into a corner and take your racing line, because oftentimes you're going to have a little prototype coming up in the mirror just like this.
Oh,
that wasn't really the GTP's corner, but the GTP wants it and is going to take it. So, and you see the flash back. I would have flashed too, honestly, if I was Vavrovsky there, because that was not the GTP's corner. But you're going to see during moves like that, because you have that rush of speed. You have that invincible feeling. You're coming up on a slower car. You feel like you can make the dive. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. You're going to anyways, right?
Yeah, that was a perfect moment for us to be talking about it. I mean, it definitely takes some getting used to for these drivers who aren't quite used to it. I think a lot about myself in the seat and trying to get, if I was in the seat right now trying to get used to this multi-class racing. You talked about it, Andrew, staying towards the bottom, staying on the racing line. If you don't move, it's about the other people around you. They know to move. They're coming up on you.
Oh, Staropoli around!
Between the leader.
And this could be a crash and a caution. This is going to be a yellow, I think.
100% going to be the caution.
That was at least 3 around.
Oh, don't rejoin, please.
Strapoli. Oh, God, Strapoli thinking about rejoining.
Wow.
They split around him. The LMP2 split around him, and they make it through. No caution. Still under green. Someone had to have been rolling for long enough. But that's where you saw some contact between two different classes.
And Staropoli has now towed to the pit lane. Let's go back and look at what just happened, because that was your GTD race leader at one point, and he just got put 3 wide into turn 1, come out of turn 1, and a GTP moved over into that Mercedes. The Mercedes had made contact with Staropoli, and Staropoli got hit then again by a couple of P1 Acuras trying to go by in GTP. So that was just a lot of traffic in one little spot of the racetrack going crazy all at once.
Yeah,
and
the reason
fully rejoining there, Bryant.
Yeah, that was scary. I was screaming. Sorry. All the cars kept kind of a forward momentum, so that's why they did not call the caution.
Yeah, thought we would have seen it. We had 3 cars or so around, but like you said, Bryant, kept that forward momentum. Take another look back here at what happened. You'll see right here, this Mercedes in the GTD clips the GTP there. That gets the Mercedes sideways, and then he clips Eric Strapoli.
This is IMSA, pure out. This is endurance racing. These are the kind of accidents that happen. It's just misunderstandings.
Well, back up to the front, Matheus Carvalho continues to lead. Let's get the ticker back up on your screen. You can see he is out ahead now to a large lead. I think about 8 seconds or so.
It's going to be 10 seconds.
Yeah, 10 seconds. There's the graphic bottom right of your screen from Nathan Dowd to Matheus Carvalho. Dowd into the Le Mans chicane now. And we've just gone past 2 hours to go, so we're officially moving on into sunset now. Bryant, go ahead.
Yeah, so the reason he is so far ahead, if you look at lap times, you're going to go, oh, there's really not that huge of a difference. Where the number gets skewed, you look at the last 10 lap average. Matheus, he is, for the last 10 laps, is a 130.4. Okay? For the last 10 laps for Nathan, he was at a 131.1. He just ran a absolute stinger of a lap and brought his average down to a 799. These cars are getting faster right now. They are starting to pick up their pace. We're starting to get 129s for the GTPs, and averages are dropping and dropping fast.
So I've got to ask, Bryant, was Dowd there saving something, or was he trying to run out of fuel? Because now he's obviously picked up, and Carvalho, you're looking at his lap times, hasn't quite picked up as much. Was Dowd saving or some form of a matter, or is this just naturally both of them are running lower on fuel and the car is getting lighter?
It could be just their setups are performing differently as they wear in. Matheus definitely isn't slowing down. He is getting faster. Every lap I'm looking at, he is faster than Dowd. But a 10-lap average, Dowd is catching up to him, but not in time, just on lap times.
I think traffic has been the other big separator.
Safety car. The safety car is out. When that GTP leader hits the line, he will engage the pit limiter, and everybody will race to catch the safety car cue.
I wonder, so would that be in response to what we saw earlier, just a delayed caution?
It is.
Okay.
It's just late, yeah. So these can happen a little late. Sometimes they do some pretty thick reviews on them.
And you know what? It still serves the purpose, because realistically, if you think about the reason for a safety car in iRacing, it's to allow guys who are in a crash a chance to repair their damage and get back in the race, right? Does that make sense? It gives them a chance to get back in the race and line back up in the queue. It's a little bit different from a safety car in real life, where usually it's going to be because of damage cleanup, cleaning up either dirt on the racetrack or parts all over the racetrack or repairing barriers or something like that. So it still serves a purpose, even if it is late, because it's going to give those guys that were in that crash a chance to repair their damage and get back in the lineup, albeit a little bit late. And here we go, rush to the pit stops.
Yeah, on lap 11 in the Europe race, in the European race, Garen Bratton got absolutely killed and into the wall in the International Horseshoe. He came back 2 hours later and won the race after having to use his fast repair. Anything can happen here. See a lot of cars coming down to pit road. That is allowed. Pit road is open. And we're gonna everybody's gonna hit pit road, then catch the safety car queue. Once we catch the safety car queue, we will commence the wave by process. The wave by process, there will be no wave by process for LMP2, as there are no LMP2s ahead of the LMP2 leader. For GT3, it's gonna be the same situation. It looks like there is no GT3s. Oh wait, there is one. There's gonna be one wave. Oh nope. Yeah, the GT3 leader is up there. There will be no wave bys. We're going to commence straight to class split. Class split, what's going to happen is all cars are going to go left. One class is going to go left, the other classes are going to go right, and all the GTPs are going to go by all of the LMP2s and GT3s.
Refreshing timing and scoring. I just want to mention real quick, each of your class leaders. Mateus Carvalho in an Acura is leading GTP. Louis Tollin is leading LMP2. He did, it looks like, stay out under this safety car. Robert Nash, the previous leader, did pit. And then down in GTD, Hugo Oliveira, it looks like, stays out in an Acura. He will assume the GTD race lead. And Trevor Vavrovsky will fall down a second after pitting. Does that sound right to you, Bryant?
All right, sorry, repeat. I was listening to race control.
Oh, race control get the best of us. So it looks like these cars that stayed out, Higo Oliveira in GTD, and then Louis Tollin in LMP2, they should assume the race lead, right? In each of their classes. So,
yeah, whoever is in the middle of the safety car queue, that looks like that's him. He is going to come out to be the leader here. But you do see, this is where everything gets confusing. Get to that GTP leader. Look at this. He's pitting. Okay?
Oh, boy.
This is where the process gets absolutely insane. Nobody knows what to do. Okay? I'm letting you know this right now from experience. Everybody's like, what the fudge am I supposed to do now? They have no idea. So watch. These cars are all going to go by. The car at the head of that queue, right at the front of the queue on track right now, that Porsche, Tom Abramitis, can't remember how you said that. Abramitis will assume the race lead.
So, Brian, talk to me about, obviously we've got some drivers staying out in some of these classes, like Oliveira, Abramitis, and others. Wouldn't it be better for them to, they're obviously playing the strategy, are they banking on another safety car later they might pit on?
No, what happened is the safety car came out in a bad position for the leader. He had already crossed pit road entry by the time it was called. So those first three, they were almost to the line when it was called, and they couldn't hit pit road. All right, it kind of low-key screwed them. All right, so they're gonna lose the lead because of that. I'm gonna let you know right now, Mathis, he's gonna be just fine. He is quite a bit faster than these other guys. It's kind of unfair, it seems like. The dude's got a cheat code. Not really, it's a joke.
Well, he did have traffic as the great separator earlier, so we'll see if maybe in traffic he gets held up a little bit more and makes it more of a race. He's got lap time, but he used traffic to help him earlier, as we've got double file right now in the safety car queue, trying to figure out who goes where.
Yeah, so that double filing right there, is those cars that exited pit road. Yeah, so those leaders got hung out to dry. The caution came out. Pit road remains open. You know, Tom dives to pit lane. He pitted. He has only one lap on his tires. The only person that stayed out was Brian Buramuthi, and that was so he could stay on the lead lap.
Okay. This is all interesting.
It's
what
confusing.
you talked about. It's confusing. It's interesting. This is what you talked about, Andrew. This is why I'm so interested and was excited to get to be here tonight, because of all of this, well, chaos. I mean, that's a lot of times what we see in racing. It's something that is always normal. Sometimes you always see chaos. And right here, it's all these drivers trying to figure this out. Some guys are new in this series for the first time with this major series. Others, regulars. So it's all these drivers. This is what this race is for. Opening of the season, it's going to be a little bit more chaotic than like we would see in the following, with more as we go down the line with this schedule.
Yeah, and we will not be going green this time, as the GT3s and the LMP2s have not done their class split yet. What class split is, as I explained, all the GT3s will go left, all the LMP2s will go right, and all the LMP2s will go by the GT3s. And that's how we get everything nice and lined up. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if you can get on a car for me, Andrew, there's an important set of cones coming out of turn 4 we need to get some eyes on. Those cones, all right, a little bit farther back. It's right at the front of that straightaway there. Yes, so look down the bottom left side of the track. There's going to be a line of cones down there. You see them? They just went by. That is the marker for where the GTP leader can restart here. He can restart between here and the start-finish line, right? Anywhere between there. As soon as he accelerates, Garrett will say green, 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 and text it in the chat, and we will go back green. They're currently, yep, those ones right there. All right, and they can restart anywhere to the start-finish line. It gives the GTP leader an advantage on these restarts. He picks when he goes. Now, what you cannot do is you cannot slow down and then jump. All right, that will be a penalty. It is in the series rules.
Yeah, slowing down like that is something you've seen in a lot of classes that have restarts like that. I see a lot of that in stock car racing. You have what we call the control car, and I imagine you call it Abromitis. Right now, and you're going to have to correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, Abromitis is looking to be the control car right now for those GTPs, so he will have that big advantage of being able to decide when they jump on the restart. And that's huge going into turn 1, because again, earlier we saw the leader go on the inside of the Intel horseshoe. He spun around and went all the way to the back of the pack. So you have that advantage of the jump. It gets you out in front of that chaos.
Yeah, and another thing to note, with the restarts, you are not supposed to gap between classes. Now, in the last split, they did it without even asking, and they're not supposed to. They might do it here as well. But what happens is you've got 3 classes all clustered together. It is going to make turn 1 extremely interesting.
Let's see what happens here on this restart. Go ahead.
Yeah, one other note. So you see where those cones were, right? Where we showed you those? You cannot pass anybody from there to the start-finish line. If you pass somebody, you will get a drive-through penalty under green, okay? You cannot pass before the start-finish line.
This is going to put a whole bunch of new players out front of GTP. This completely changes the race. This puts Tom Abromitis out front. He was about 4th place. Miguel Torres is now 2nd. Austin Peterson 3rd. Luke Santos 4th. Dalton Fredericks 5th. Now, the guys who were up here would be Mateus Carvalho, Christian Abate, Ross Banfield. They now sit 14th, 15th, and 16th. Nathan Dowd in 13th. The previous other drivers in the top 5 are all 13th or worse right now. This is a completely new crop of drivers out front in GTP. They've all pitted. I don't know what to expect now.
Oh, it's about to get insane. Now, if you notice, those LMP2s and GT3s are splitting. Do you know why? Because they don't want to die. They don't want to die. And he can restart anywhere in this section here. He will accelerate at any time. He's going to choose late.
Waited until about the NASCAR restart zone, but we are back green here in the Majors 2.4 at Daytona. Miguel Torres under fire from Austin Peterson to turn 1. And Peterson makes the pass. Oh, and he's gonna get
Gonna
spun!
be a wreck.
Abramitis around on his own! This is gonna be a massive one!
Huge GTP into the barriers. Heavy. He is stopped on the racetrack right now.
Safety car, safety car, safety car. Safety car is out. Cars are still piling in. Let's look just before the International Horseshoe. There is about, gotta be 10, 12 cars stuck in the International Horseshoe, just absolutely destroyed.
That's an LMP2 on its hood.
The flashing is happening, yes. That's a graphics card that we're working on upgrading this coming week, but, oh my gosh, you can see the car was flipped. That was the 596 LMP2, I believe. We'll find out who. I'm not entirely sure, but let's get back up to the leaders and see if this flashing calms down.
Oh man, look at that LMP2 right there.
And the flashing is something that is gonna, it's just, this race, you have to render so much with these cars. You are rendering 15, guys, 15 different cars, 16. That is a ton of different cars to render in. That's why he's having issues when he gets a ton of cars in the frame. And what's happening here is iRacing is rendering cars before it gets to his camera, and it's just causing issues. So if these classes were to split, all of this flashing would stop.
Yeah, that's what we'll see as we go along right here as we look forward. The computer can handle it better. That's one thing with these multi-class racing. We get to do it online like this, but sometimes it can cause problems just because of so many in the field.
We'll work on fixing it here in the background. This is something that we expect really only for this broadcast, and we should be able to... Let me hit the yellow on button here. We should be able to get a new graphics card in the broadcast PC here at Pitstop TV before the Majors 24. So between now and then, we should be all set. But for now, we'll go into the settings and just turn a couple of things down right quick to hopefully minimize this issue.
Well, go ahead, Bryant.
Yeah, something that was super interesting. The GTPs, the first through sixth, go all the way to the start-finish line. The LMP2 and GT3 class, they were still in the infield sections. That is how big this wreck was. I saw this one coming from a mile away, and I'm like, yeah, that's about how I saw this one going. Restarts in these are deadly, but a big thing with this restart, that means no more safety cars for a whole nother hour.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot. That means if you have an incident, you have a problem, well, there's going to be nothing there to save you since we've had our 2 safety cars so far. Once we get a chance to do it and are able to relay all of our problems, we'll get you back and take a look at what happened. But you saw there complications between the cars side by side going into the S's in second and third. They had a problem, stack up the field, GTP hits the wall, and the LMP2s have nowhere to go.
Yeah, it was literally, do you remember watching Chicago last year where Kevin Harvick spins and everybody just piles in? This is exactly what happened here. There he goes. There goes the Porsche. He wiggles, causes the guys behind him, and it is just all calamity going through the S's here.
Man.
This is the tightest spot on the racetrack. There is not a tighter spot, and everybody just starts piling in.
There was so much going on. I didn't even realize that Abramitis had a problem. That was the car you saw stop there in the middle of the track that has no front end anymore. The toes are both pointed in on his car. Luckily, I don't think he's used his fast repair yet.
He was the leader.
Huge damage. He was. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I didn't even realize that he had a problem, and he did. We'll take a look on board with Abramitis right here, heading into turn 1 and 2. It's going to be right here on the exit. You see him get loose on the exit, try to catch it, couldn't save it.
Once you wiggle like that, these cars are so hard to catch. They're very snappy, and once you are there in the S's, you just throw it in reverse and you floor it and you pray.
That was everybody just trying to get into one little piece of racetrack at once. Nobody wanted to lift. That's unfortunate. I mean, it's easy for us to say you just have to lift, but of course they are racing and trying to win the race. Granted, there's still an hour and 40-some minutes to go. Let's see one more look at this with Abramitis having the problem out front. And then who was it? Was it second? Yeah, it was second that got spun around. He did about the exact same thing. Looped it on his own. That was a 77 of, let me find him here. Well, you see the carnage there, but that was the 77 of
So one
Austin
thing to
Peterson.
keep in mind, you cannot see past that pit wall when you're in the car. So you're coming around that corner blind. You cannot see these cars. Plus, there's cars in front of you. All right, you can't see in front of them. You literally could not see this wreck back in the pack, and that's why everybody just piled in. It's a super fast section. When you go through turn 1 there, it's all acceleration through those S's, and everybody could not see. And so they just piled in. There was no chance to brake here.
Well, second safety car in about 20 minutes of racing. So you said earlier this means that we don't have a safety car now for an hour?
Yes, so we won't have a safety car for another hour. What that's going to mean is that we're going to only have a possibility for a safety car for another 15 minutes during this race.
So does that mean that when that hour is up, if there was an incident that would have otherwise required a safety car, will there be a safety car at that hour period?
No, there will not. It has to happen in that 15-minute span between when the hour ends and when we get to 25 minutes to go. From there on, you can't have a safety car anyway. So we have a 15-minute span. If somebody wrecks and we get some collection, we'll have a safety car. And we are maxed out at 3 safety cars, if I remember correctly.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that means we
very
can only have one more at all.
I want to talk about that Ferrari, if you don't mind.
Well, if
It's
I
gonna be
can, really quickly, I just want to mention that we have Vice with the top 3 spots, which might be something that you were going to talk about. 3 Ferraris out front, all from, I think that's Vice Motorsports or Racing. I can't quite tell on the side of the car. But I just noticed 3 of the same liveries all leading, and the Ferrari is the car of choice for all 3 of them.
Yeah, so that is Vice. But I have nothing against the team. I have a thing against the car. That is not a GTP.
Really?
That is an LMH, okay? If anybody tells you that is a GTP, they are lying to you, okay? These cars have been adapted to race in the GTP class. These cars are originally all-wheel drive. iRacing has made them rear-wheel drive, so they will work with the GTP class.
So they don't run in real life in the GTP, do they?
They do not. This is not an
Oh.
IMSA car. That is a WEC car.
Interesting. I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, so these cars do compete
You're not
against each other
supposed
on the world stage and World Endurance Championship, but in the IMSA class in iRacing, it puts the Ferrari in with the, or at least with this class in iRacing, it puts the Ferrari in with the rest of the GTP bunch, which is a bit of a different clash, but
Going green.
here we go, into the restart zone.
Sorry, it was a very late call.
You see the LMP2s backing off once again. They're just a little bit further back, but here we go. Restart zone coming up for Miguel Torres, your race leader. And he will launch in that Geico restart zone.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be further back. They don't want a repeat.
I don't want to repeat, especially since we know we will not have another safety car for the next hour guaranteed. So if you have a problem, well, you're on your own. Clean here through the S's, at least for the GTP class. We've seen a little bit of side-by-side, but they're clean. Here come the LMP2s, mostly single-filed out right here. I don't lead, but back there, back in the 6th position, problems between 2 of the GTPs.
Luke Santos, and that was also Eric Biggs going off in the International Horseshoe. The LMP2s race by as they caught up to some of those GTP stragglers that had problems. Another one stopped outside of the West Horseshoe.
That's 4 or 5 cars now involved. 6. They're all piling in. At the kink or just past the kink. It's pretty bad.
Oh man, LMP2s and GTPs going crazy here.
That was an extremely long wreck.
Big problem into turn 6 there, like you said, Brian, into the West Horseshoe, but it doesn't matter. Oh man, goodness, one of the
Miguel Torres, the other, he was the leader.
That was your leader. Campos is now in the lead for the GTP class, but leader Michael Torres, who led into that starting lap of the restart, well, he has no front end and he's down to 11th.
Miguel Torres, big problems here. He's getting passed by all the GTD bunch. He's going to have to bring that car back to the pit lane and hope that he's got a faster pair left. This is going to be a challenge for him to get down into the chicane.
So everything, it must have started with him in the West Horseshoe. As we'll see, causing problems here now in the Le Mans chicane with him just being on the inside and too slow.
Let's go back and see what happened to Miguel Torres. He was leading into the kink. Here's the West Horseshoe for what was our race leader. This is 2 restarts in a row where our race leaders got problems. He just went straight off the West Horseshoe and then rejoined.
The problem start. Yeah, right there. That's where everything collects, and we have a massive pileup just out of the Western Horseshoe there.
And his rejoin was fine, but other cars had an issue at the exact same time. And that was right in front of the LMP2 leaders as well. This is just insane.
This is multi-class racing. This is IMSA. This is what we're all about, is these hard challenges. Now, we're not about the wrecking, we're about the hard racing, for sure.
There's Miguel Torres into the outer barriers. And then Dino Vela has a problem getting back on the gas out of the West Horseshoe, spins around, and that's what causes this melee.
Looks like he may have had a little bit of help on his rear end there, possibly.
I don't think so, but maybe. We want to get back to live picture where we take another look at it, but man, just absolute insanity. Let's try and get back into a groove here. Out front, it's going to be, let's see, Orlando Campos, I believe.
Yes. In the Ferrari.
Leading the way from Vice.
Cool. With that Vice Motorsports group, teammate Torres obviously had a problem. His other teammate, too, also had a problem in that Vice Motorsports Ferrari. So Campos, the only one here out surviving of those 3 teammates up front. Now we've seen almost all of our cars single file out. I imagine we won't have too many problems. And now we look forward ahead to getting back. These GTPs will look to that lap traffic of the GTDs.
Yeah, this puts Campos out front in GTP. This puts Robert Nash out front in LMP2 by about 3 seconds to Zachary Goddard. That is Ben Holliday, Chris Willard, and Kyle Deckard, your top 5 down on LMP2. And to recap what's going on in GTD quickly, Luke Wallace seems to be leading in the 601 car. That's a McLaren over Trevor Vavrovsky, Christian Challoner, and Bradley Haley, your top 4 down there. Kevin Hill runs in 5th. That's a very diverse group. You've got a McLaren leading, a Porsche in 2nd, a Porsche in 3rd, but then a Mustang in 4th place, and a Corvette in 5th.
Yeah, and that Vice Motorsports team, you can see it is obvious. They're racing the Daytona 24 next weekend together, and based on their speed, they're going to go win it. That's definitely what they're aiming for, and they're showing out the speed tonight. They're going to go to Daytona next weekend and have that on their mind for sure.
Ross Banfield, though, with a move for the race lead. Here comes that 777 that we saw earlier. We saw him get cycled to the back of the field in that first safety car pit stop cycle. He is now racing for the lead through the S's and into the International Horseshoe. He's got the inside. The LMP2 moves out of the way, and Ross Banfield will lead us into the kink. Orlando Campos falls down to 2nd. Who is that in 3rd? That's Nathan Dowd, it looks like. So he has come back into the top 3.
Yeah, Nathan Dowd in 3rd. Our previous leader that was just insanely fast. He just ran a 29.9. 129.9, of course. He is going to start heading his way back towards Dowd. Look out for him, but Dowd is going to have a pretty good advantage over him here, even though he just beat his lap time. See, we are now hitting 29s pretty consistently for a lot of these drivers. They're going to start hitting these. The track is getting colder. We're at track temp of 70 degrees. This is extremely important for these cars, all right? We're going to start heading into happy hour. What happy hour is the fastest hour of the race, and that's going to be the last hour for us. It's just, the track's just going to keep getting colder and colder. No sun on the track, no heat in the track. These tires just cook when the track is cold.
Track temp down a degree to Brian's point. Scott?
Yeah, I'm just talking about that's exactly what I was going to say. I'm agreeing with Brian here. This is where we're going to see, as the sun continues to set, chaos ensuing as we get back into these leaders trying to battle between each other. As we see a car on pit road, I think that's Chris Sawalith. No, it's Rafael Santos. So we got some cars pitting for unknown damage while we got still a battle for the lead back up here with Banfield.
Banfield is actually checked out by a second and change over Campos, so Dowd in third and Fredericks in fourth are pulling in and catching up. They can get a battle through your top five. Abramitis sits in fifth, which is a heck of a recovery considering where he was at a caution ago. Wow. I'm just trying to take all this in now and calm back down a little bit from all that chaos that we saw for that 20 minutes or so.
It gets exciting, then it calms down, then it gets insane. This is the reason. This is why the Daytona 24 is sold out. You cannot find a single camping spot, and if you do, they're over $1,000. Okay, that's why we get sold out every year. I cannot wait to go watch these cars duke it out in real life, and they're just getting me ready for it. These guys are giving me quite a great show here. LMP2s have to be some of the funnest cars to watch here. We got the Dallara P217 here. It is the only, what is the word for it? Oh man. All the other classes, they have multiple cars. My brain isn't working. It's okay, I just did 2 splits of race control and live admin.
Yeah,
and
no
the last
wonder.
one was pretty bad. I got pretty fried. We had probably 15 protests that I had to review while I was looking for cars wrecking. And
Oh
so
my
that gets
gosh.
pretty crazy. Your brain gets fried.
I couldn't imagine. I mean, Race Control definitely has it a lot in their hands, especially when it comes to stuff like this. That's why we saw the safety car, the first one, initially come out so late because they had so much to review and look at, and it just goes to show that they got a lot on their plates to be taking here in this race. And so we've got just it's chaos all around the board, on the track, up in the booth, everywhere you go.
Hey, I have my words back. LMP2 is the only spec car class. Every single one of those cars are the exact same car. The only difference is the slight setup in the car and how the driver drives it.
Yeah, if we go back to the Whiplash SimCam's race details open setup, these guys can set the car up however they want. And of course, there is usually a set of, similar setup notes, if you will, or I guess similar adjustments that you make to go fast. That, there's certain things that make the car go faster, so they will be similar to a degree, but otherwise the setups are completely different from car to car, I would imagine, aside from maybe some teammates, like we see the Vice Motorsports group. I'm sure they're running very similar setups, if not the same setup, across their Ferraris.
Yeah, so Vice is running the same setup. They are preparing for next weekend, so they're going to be basically simulating what their cars are going to feel like for next weekend during the temperature change. This is the time of day these cars change, and that is why the majors did this. All right, these cars are changing a lot when the sun goes down. Prime time is really 5 a.m. That's when you can put down the absolute blistering lap times. But for us, we're about 30 minutes from the prime time for this race.
I imagine, Brian, that's because the track is so cold from it not having the sun on it all night long. That time right before is its peak cold temperature that it has from not having the sun on it. And also, probably imagine drivers plan and strategically for it to have less fuel at that time to run even faster, as we see these cars still trying to work out all of this traffic between the classes.
Yeah, and that is the GTP class starting to work their way through the GTDs. Some of those farther back, they're going to be fighting through them in the inner loop. That is going to be very fun to watch here. It's about to get pretty crazy here. The leader's not going to clear him. He's going to get slowed up here. It's going to become a little bit of a cluster. All these guys will be working through all of these awkward turns. Every turn in the inner loop is extremely awkward.
Ross Banfield dancing through the GTD class, and he's up to the GTD class leaders, but Nathan Dowd has closed in by about a second. He is now right behind Ross Banfield as they work through the International Horseshoe and down to the kink. They've got the Vavrovsky machine right ahead. That is your GTD race leader. And Banfield dives to the inside here in the West Horseshoe.
Yeah, let's be honest about these turns on this track. Every turn is awkward, except for the turn coming up onto the banking. So not turn 7, but the one after, right there, that turn as they're doing right now. That one's not awkward, but every other turn is awkward except for that one, and obviously the banking turns. The bus stop, I'd say that's probably one of the least awkward ones, but it's difficult to get it right. And so that's why it is a struggle as well. But these turns are just, they're strange how you go through them. It's just not a natural racing circuit as like you would see with Spa or Laguna Seca, or you could even go as far as Long Beach. It's not as flowy. It's not a flowy track. We've got a wreck coming out of the Le Mans chicane on the backstretch. That is going to be the GTP of Tom Abramis. I don't know how you said that. Abramitis. Yeah, he spun around pretty hard. He's got some front damage on there on the left side. You can see he's pretty bowed in there. But he did a full spin coming out. Looks like he may got a little bit of help with a push to the bumper.
If you remember earlier, Abramitis was our leader after our first safety car, then had issues that brought out our second safety car. He got the front end absolutely destroyed. He obviously came in for his fast repair, but now he's had another problem on the back straightaway in the Le Mans chicane, has to bring it to pit road.
Yeah, and the leaders, we got for GTP, we got Ross Banfield. He is on 10 laps on his set of tires so far. Farther back, the top 3 are all have 10 laps since they pitted last. Now, Orlando Campos and Stefan Hassett, they have 14 laps. They pitted on the first caution. And that is the split between all of these cars is about a 4-lap difference, and that's going to even out the field. Now, the question is this going to affect fuel loads for the end of the race for these cars? Are some going to be able to make it on one stop and others aren't? It is going to be extremely close.
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to ask you, Bryant, just about. Obviously, we had those safety cars when we saw those pit stops. Let's imagine no one has pitted yet since the safety car. That was about at 1:45, an hour and 45 to go in this race. Could they make it off that pit stop, or are there still people out there that are going to have to pit?
The ones that went at 1:45, it's going to be close. I think if you pitted at the first safety car, I think you might be screwed. It's going to be extremely close on fuel. I don't have exact fuel numbers, okay? And each car's setup burns fuel differently. Some of these cars, they are set up with no downforce, and they fly through the banking faster than anybody else. That's why we see top speed differences of, so like second place, Nathan Dowd, his top speed for the entire race is 198 miles per hour. But the Ferrari in the Ferrari team, they are hitting top speeds of 204 to 206. That has to do with everything about their downforce. And that also changes how much fuel you burn. And so everybody is going to have different fuel burns for this race.
I had a couple of comments about the ticker not cycling, and that should be fixed now, so take note of that on the left side of the screen, and yes, it is cycling now. So there was a button that was pushed that had actually stopped that, and that has now been fixed. So thank you for calling that out. I was looking at it and thought I had noticed it had stopped, but of course, calling the action too, it's a little bit difficult to manage every single thing. So yeah, thank you for that shout out there in the YouTube chat. And that should now cycle through, and we'll all be hunky-dory and move on. We are just past an hour completed in this race, Bryant, and I think the mental fatigue might start to set in. This is a bit of a long race to do as a single driver. Usually, you run about 2 hours to a driver, sometimes 3 or 4, but that's a little bit more rare. A lot of times, drivers will try to, or teams will try to cycle drivers at the 2 hour mark to keep them fresh. Whether that's 2 stints at a GTD or 3 stints in a prototype, something like that usually. So this is where we start to get into that fatigue section of the race, right?
These guys will usually do about 2 to 3 stints. So basically what they're practicing tonight is a full stint of, basically they're practicing their stint How am I going to feel through a full stint tonight? And this is going to be how long their stints are. Maybe a bit long for the prototypes. These prototypes are absolutely draining to the brain. You're fast, going through these corners really quickly. One twitch, you mess up. Because of the insane amount of grip, also, it seems to have calmed down these cars, but it made it so much quicker that there's another struggle there where you've got to be able to push the speed without making a bad twitch and wrecking, like we saw that Porsche do on that first lap. Now, the big thing with that Porsche that we saw wreck on that restart, we're still talking about, what, 40 minutes ago, he was on ice-cold tires and didn't realize it. These guys are going to start coming in here in about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. They're going to be on cold tires. We're going to see some spins, okay? They're not going, some drivers are more aware of it than others. Some forget and they're just trying to push and they spin. They go, wait, where's my grip at? Especially in the GTPs, because the grip, the grips have all been messed up recently, okay? And so everybody's brain's mixed up. I do want to shout out one car if you don't mind. Can we take a look at Rexy? We got Rexy over there leading the race. Oh no, not leading the race. It's your ticker's messed up. Your ticker's mixed up. Christian Chandler in the one car for the GTDs. Everybody say hello to Rexy. This is the AO Racing scheme. All right, they won the championship last year at Batul Petit Le Mans. All right, they went on an absolute tear, winning races, won themselves what they call 3 gold teeth. You look at the front of that car, the very front, you see the teeth on there? They painted 3 of them golden for each win they got, and you can actually see 2 of them on the left there are golden and 1 on the bottom right is. You can see all the gold teeth on that car for each one of their wins. Championship winning IMSA GT3 car.
I remember when that paint scheme debuted. I think it was at Le Mans, right, Bryant?
It started in so this AO Racing is an IMSA team.
Yeah.
AO Racing is an IMSA team, and they did race at Le Mans the last year. So I'm not, they've been racing in IMSA for a while, but I could be mistaken.
Yeah. I just remember last year, I know it was before Le Mans for sure, but I saw Rexy debut in the paint scheme, and I remember I was like, okay, this is probably the coolest paint scheme I have probably ever seen. And so it's definitely awesome from Christian Chandler to run this here tonight. One thing I was going to mention, you talked about pit stops, Bryant, and cars being on cold tires, drivers being on cold tires, and managing that for those laps, getting it going. What is the best way under green to be able to warm up those tires for those few laps?
There's no way. Brake early, turn easy, take care of the car, and just make it 3 or 4 laps in and just feel the car as it wears in. I do apologize, guys, for the ticker. Another cool car to look at is it's the 583, I believe. 583. That scheme is a Multimatic Ford Mustang. Very cool. That Mustang debuted last year in IMSA. And that is one of the prime Ford cars. I'm sure, yep, right there, that Ford Mustang there, that is a Multimatic Ford Mustang scheme.
That being driven this evening by Bradley Haley, running in the 8th position, so a couple of spots down from Rexy. That's Christian Challenger behind the wheel of Rexy this evening. Bradley Haley started 42nd, currently runs in 43rd overall. That is up to 8th in GTD class. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the reason this car has a lot of meaning to me, Multimatic Racing, all right? A guy named Roger Miller drove for them. He's a local star here. He died in a race at Kansas. Interesting story with him. He got into a wreck at the racetrack, okay? And they checked him out, went to the Infield Care Center, everything. He got dropped off at the hotel. He never showed up to breakfast the next day. They had to go in the room, and they found him in the room. And so that has a lot of meaning to me. I know his wife, who he left behind. Amazing young woman. She runs the NASA Racing Series here in Utah and does an absolutely great job. Shout out to Sherry Miller, great job, and to the whole Larry H. Miller group. I am very sorry for your losses with your kids and motorsports. Sorry, a little bit of a downer. I apologize.
That's okay. Just took a moment there to let that settle in, and we stay on board here with Bradley Haley. I want to mention, by the way, we got some beautiful pictures of some beautiful gentlemen, Bryant Lucas and Scott Shive, joining me on the mic this evening. And guys, I want to welcome you in one more time to everybody who might be joining us for the first time here on Pitstop TV, or maybe is just joining us for the first time this evening. Thanks for doing so. This is the Majors 2.4 of Daytona. And we have got Ross Banfield, it looks like, coming back through the GTD field. I believe that's the car that just passed us here as we're on board with Haley. So Banfield and the rest of the GTP crew working back through GTD competition, and there they go. Banfield up on the high banks of Daytona International Speedway and moving forward with this race lead. Gonna flash I believe that's the McLaren that's in second place of Luke Wallace. And pull up on an LMP2.
I have found something. Okay, so if my recollection is correct, a LMP2 can go about 23 to 24 laps. Okay, Robert Nash has gone 19 laps. He has to pit in the next 5 laps. He has 16 more minutes to about 16 to 21 minutes that he has to get to be able to make it to the end of the race. What's cool about these LMP2s, they actually burn very similarly. If you look at their top speeds, they're all about the same. They're going to be burning near the same. The driver to watch, that is going to be Jody Haynes. Did I say that right? Joey Haynes, the 08 car. He is in an absolutely fantastic position. He came in on the second caution. He has another 10 to 9 laps left in the car. He will make it to the end of the race. Everybody else there is a maybe. Ozzy Multwan, he pitted 1 lap later than Joey. He is good with one more stop to the end of the race. Robert Nash, Louis Tuan, Zachary Goldard, Dick Mueller, and Kyle Deckard. I think they're going to have 2 stops. It's going to be extremely close for them on fuel.
Yeah, and we won't have another safety car in those 16 minutes, so they'll have to pit under green for sure between those cars. Behind them, others, like you talked about, Brian, have the possibility of being able to stay it out. I imagine, correct me, do they start saving fuel now?
You can save fuel in these cars. You just got to keep the gear high. It's too late to start saving fuel now. If you're not going to make it, you're not going to make it, unless you're pretty close. All right, you're going to have to start thinking of some strategies to one-up over this field. And they're going to be praying for a caution in that 15-minute caution availability period that was created. It's going to be close. I think Robert Nash, I'm almost positive is not going to make it. Zachary Goldard, not going to make it. Kyle Deckard, definitely not going to make it, I believe. If they do, they're going to have to save an immense amount of fuel. It is close, but everybody else is so good on fuel.
So it sounds like Milwayne's in a good spot, running in second.
Milwayne is in a fantastic spot.
He's got a little bit of right front damage, but Ozzy Milwayne, we saw him in the Sim Racing for the Kids event on Wednesday. Makes some contact there door-to-door with a GTD car into turn 6. He's going to have a GTP up his rear end here out of turn 6 and onto the banking. That was scary for a second, but he gives room. But Ozzy Milwayne could be in a good spot to win the America's Split here in LMP2. We'll have to watch in LMP2 the rest of this race. It's going to be an interesting, as you said earlier, spec battle between all of the same car. But they've all got the same fuel burn properties, all got the same aerodynamic properties. It just comes down to the driver and setup.
So what's interesting is there used to be 2 spec classes. We used to have LMP3s race in the 24 hours of Daytona. That stopped last year. We no longer had LMP3s racing. No more dentists. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, what does that mean?
Do I need to? Okay, I'll explain the joke.
Yeah.
So
hit me with it.
LMP3 drivers are known as dentists because the cars are less expensive. All right, and there's a lot of gentlemen drivers who are dentists who race them, and so they just want to race cars. They got a lot of money because they're dentists and rip you off with teeth, and get to race LMP3s in their free time.
Hey, look,
Does that make sense?
I can't blame anybody for trying to get behind the wheel of a car, because that's what I'm trying to do, as well as being in the booth. That is great.
Yeah, so the dentists are no longer racing with us. And so, but there's all there's one spinning around hard in the intersection towards the interloop. That's going to be the 568 of Dexter Castro. He's going to pull back onto track here. He's got some pretty decent damage there. He got slid pretty hard. There's quite a few spec series in IMSA. You got the Miata MX-5 series. All spec cars. They're all built by the same company, and then the teams put the setups in. That's the same thing as these LMP2s or LMP3s. So there are quite a few spec series out there, like the new Mustang Challenge series. Every single one of those cars are produced by Ford Performance, and it is a spec series. So a little bit of a teaching there for you guys for the IMSA series.
Looking up at the top three at GTP anyways, it's still Ross Banfield over Nathan Dowd and Dalton Fredericks. They're each separated by a few seconds apiece. 1.5 seconds between Banfield and Dowd, another 6.5 seconds back to Fredericks. And then you get to Mateus Carvalho running in the 4th spot. He was our leader earlier that did oh so good in that opening stint, and then that first caution kind of caught him out, and it's been down the drain ever since, but he is starting to come back.
Look at Dick Mueller. He is stuck on the tires. If you can get... Oh, nope, he's gone. Sorry. He has done towed, but he was stuck up on the fence there.
There he is, actually. He's
oh, yeah.
He hasn't towed yet.
A little bit. Yeah, if you rewind just a little bit, he was actually stuck on the wall. Kind of interesting. He is going to get into some big trouble here. Yeah. Okay, yeah, he needs to tow. Yeah. Pretty bad damage for him. Let's see if he gets up on the wall here.
Oh, this is going to involve the 77 car in GTP. We'll see a snippet of it here in a second. Where did the 568 go? Hang on, which number was it? Dick Mueller.
It was the 5. Yeah, I'm not quite. I don't have that good of a memory, sir. I'm sorry. That looks like the car though, and he was blinking, so he's going to pop back in here in a second.
Oh, there he is.
He's on the wall right there. You saw him. He's on the wall. Rewind just a little bit. He was just on the wall.
Give me 1 second. It was car 15. That's what I was looking for here.
Good. Sorry.
And here it is. Here's the 77 GTP coming up on him, going around the outside and turned left.
Watch the hook here. Yep.
Oh, man.
You can see that one coming from a mile away. So it's the GTP that I saw up on the wall.
And that was the 77 car. We're going to work to find him really quick. So, the fix to the flashing is to draw fewer cars, which does present a couple of challenges with broadcasting a race like this with 54 cars that sign up. But here we go. This is the 77 car of Austin Peterson out of the Northwest, and he's just going to keep a very tight line. He's got more grip, so he's trying to keep to a more tight racing line. He doesn't realize that LMP2 is going to track out a little further.
It is going to track out. They have no grip anymore.
It's what you said, that grip. Yep. That's what I was going to say. It's what you said earlier.
Sorry. Yeah. They track out now. They didn't used to do that.
Yeah, it used to be the LMP2 was pretty well point and drive, right? You just pointed the wheel where you wanted to go, and it went. Now, with a little bit less aerodynamic grip, it kind of, you have to follow a wider racing line, a more of an arc, more of a curvature, and let it track out a little bit out of turn one. So it's a little more challenging to race side by side like that, and I just don't think Peterson was ready for that LMP2 to track out quite as far as he had to make the corner. That's just racing, though. I mean, that's multi-class racing, and unfortunately that happens sometimes. Got to be ready for it, otherwise that's what happens.
Yeah, and we got a car working his way up the GTP field. Mathis Carvalho. He, the number 625.
Mateus, right? Yeah, he was the leader earlier that I was talking about.
Yeah, he's worked his way up to 4th now. He was as low as, I believe, 10th. Let's see. What can you pull up that graphic?
As low as 17th.
There we go. 17th. Yeah, he had some big issues. He's the one that got screwed by the safety car. He's been working his way back. He is, last 10 laps, he is not as fast as that leader in the last 10 laps. That leader has been cooking him pretty good.
There we go, a pit stop out of somebody.
Great.
Yeah, this should...
Lionel Callisto here out of LMP2. So
the LMP2's pitting out. They are at their absolute max.
And how long, minute-wise, can they go on a full stint of fuel?
Just about an hour or under an hour.
So we're likely going to see these guys short fill at some point, whether it's they're fill up all the way now and then take a short fill later, or short fill now and take a more substantial stop later. So kind of a couple of options, and here comes Robert Nash into the pit lane.
For the people who are higher up, you're just going to take a full service. He's taking a fuel service. If you're jacked up in the air, you got to take tires, you're just doing a full service. And, you know, like I said, you can not take tires, but you need to take tires every stop, because if you keep going, the tires will start to fall off. But through a fuel run, the tires do not matter. It's all about the fuel weight, and it gives you the speed.
Yeah, interesting. You talked about Robert Nash not being able to make it, and like we said, he's on pit road right now. Box time 1:32 continues to tick on as he replaces his tires, fills all the way up with fuel. I never realized how long these pit stops take in the sim, up to over 40 seconds, just over 40 seconds, 42.13. Robert Nash, your leader earlier, will be back on. Meanwhile, Mill Wayne in that 114 will be out front for now.
All right, and now the new problem is the GT3s. They are going to have to start coming in. They are starting to reach their max length as well. Next 3 laps, every single GT3 will hit pit road.
There's a look at Mill Wayne, your LMP2 race leader, the diffuser dragging there in the back end. But we'll drop down to GTD quickly. Here is Trevor Vavrovsky in the 603 leading the show. Luke Wallace sits in second in a McLaren. Brian Bennett third, Ethan Bass in 4th place, and Bradley Haley in 5th. Now, I want to shout out somebody that I see in this field today, Tyler Campbell. Longtime friends. He and I date back a couple of years, actually, with the Pacific Northwest GT3 series that we used to have here at Pit Stop TV. So we go way back. It's good to see Car 01 in the field this evening. I used to have a whole sim racing team, Whiplash Racing and Unreal Esports, went by a couple different names, and he was a big part of that back in the day. So it's good to see a familiar face in this field. Tyler Campbell, I want to shout out to you, and he's running a solid race here. He's up ahead of Rexy, so he's up ahead of Christian Challenger, which anytime you're ahead of Christian, you're doing a good job. So Tyler doing a fantastic job here in 6th place, looking for maybe a little bit more as this race goes on. He runs, as I said, in 6th, but would like to move up into that top 5. And he's one of the few Mercedes that I see. So the GT3 field, or GTD field, is largely Porsche today. I wonder if we're going to see the same kind of setup in the 24 next week, if it's going to be largely Porsche there as well.
So during the Australian split, well, I'm calling it Australia. The international split was like 90% Australians. It was all Australians. They were so chill. They were awesome to work with. This lobby actually is super chill. We've only had 1 protest this entire time. So super chill. But, oh man, where were we?
Talking about
Australians.
Yes.
Yes. You would be surprised how many Mustangs. Dude, the Australians, they love those Mustangs, bro.
I love the Mustang. Look, it looks so sleek. I mean, obviously it's a well-performing car itself, or it wouldn't be out on track, but it just looks sleek. I love the way it looks. Look, when we were getting into the session tonight to broadcast here tonight, I didn't own any of the GTP LMP2s or the GT3 cars, and guess which one I bought?
The Mustang.
You bought the Mustang, and you're gonna come race it with me next week, right? We're gonna go do the 24 together.
I'm down, Brian. I'm down.
Let's do. I have a driver for you. There's a brother named Garrett Lucas, and he wants to go do some racing.
Hey, look, I'm down. Let's talk about it later on this week. I'm good for it though.
Sounds good. Let's plan on that. As we look at the field, though, Ross Banfield's gonna lead our GTPs. Nathan Dowd second. Dalton Fedricks gonna be third. For our beautiful LMP2 cars, a little bit biased. I love LMP2s. If you couldn't tell, they're having some mix-ups here as those guys who came in later are now starting to have to pit. They're gonna be close on making it even. So Ray Partridge, he is the best guy on fuel right now, and Robert Nash is in second, as Joey Haynes comes into pit road.
I hate to cut in here. Mateus Carvalho just worked off the pit lane. He's on his second lap off of the pit lane. He was that leader in the opening stint in GTP. He's back on the racetrack here. He was the first of the GTPs to pit, and we're now seeing a bunch of them file into pit lane. They can go about 29 laps. They are at their max, hitting 29 to 30 now for a lot of that field. So a lot of them coming in and pitting in these next couple of laps. Pit lane is about to be a very busy place. Right about at an hour to go, as you see some traffic working here, but who just pitted? I'm going to try and get another car or two here. Of course, they could have saved fuel. Here we go. There's the 91 car working off the pit lane. Stephen Hassett, he just pitted. That's in that Vice Motorsport Esports. Orlando Campos works off the pit lane. So GTP going through a very vicious pit cycle right now.
Yeah, and we are to the final hour of this race. This is happy hour, as I was talking about. This is as cold as the track is going to get, okay? The colder the track, the faster the times. It's important. It is so important. That track temperature is going to go down in the next few minutes, I promise, okay? It completely changes how these cars grip up, drive, get loose, grip up out of corners, get loose out of corners. You have to change the way you drive. Your braking points change. They get deeper, way deeper. And you have so much more grip through the corners, but what comes with that is a snappy race car. The cars are going to become more snappy. Once you get loose on a cold track, you don't recover. When it's hot as heck out there in these IMSA cars, you have a chance to catch the race car.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing from you, Bryant, is that it's one swing or the other. You could absolutely benefit from it, or if you make a mistake, you are going to be regretting it from having that mistake. It's being hard to recover. As you'll see looking up there, I'm looking at the blimp right now. Leader Banfield of the GTPs coming into pit road. This is the leader, Adam Banfield, the 777. He's on the pit road.
Yeah, Ross Banfield coming in now for service. This is what I was talking about. Pit lane, a busy place, especially for GTP right now. So Banfield is in, Dowd is in, Fredericks is in, Carvalho stays out. He will keep on going. Torres is out on the racetrack still. Carvalho actually just pitted. That's why he's still on the racetrack. Torres pitted 24 laps ago, so he pitted during the second caution. Eric Biggs is doing the pit lane anytime. Jesse Canales is exiting the pit lane, just came off the pits, and works into the 10th place. Stephen Hassett just pitted, Orlando Campos just pitted, and Luke Santos is due in really at any point in time as well. And we await Banfield to leave the pit lane here. Pit timer up over 40 seconds. And there he'll go.
Yeah, and for this race, we have 3 different splits. Of course, we're broadcasting split 1, but the other 2 splits are running very smoothly. There has been 2 total protests for split 1, actually 3, pardon me. 1 protest for split 2, and 2 for split 3. These guys are running so well. We had quite a race in the European Series just a little while ago. We had like 14 protests for the Split 1 race.
Brian, I'm going to ask you a
shout out-
question real quick. We should be due for another pit stop, right, from the GTP cars, right? We should be due for one more stop.
These cars,
They can go about 29 laps, and they should go beyond that.
yes, they will not that far we at. They will not make it.
Yeah,
They
the
will have to pit
European
again.
split ran 88 laps. I recall that from the
Yes.
Global Sim Racing broadcast. Shout out to the guys at GSRC and SimSpeed. SimSpeed had the international split, and GSRC had the European split. I was watching the GSRC broadcast earlier. They went 88 laps in that European race. We should be on pace to do about the same. It's lap 51 now.
They're not gonna make it.
Yeah, they're gonna have to pit one more time. So that's answering your question from Bones Does in the YouTube chat, asking if these guys can stretch their fuel. The GTD drivers will try to. We'll see if they can or not. But the GTP drivers will have to pit one more time, and the LMP2 cars, I think they might have to pit one more time as well. Most of them, anyways.
Yeah, there's some that might make it. It's gonna be very close. GT3s are going to be just a one stop and they're good to go for the rest of the race. They usually go farther on fuel. I'm not super experienced in GT3s, so I wasn't sure how much farther. But thinking back, I did about 34 laps last year in the BMW GT3.
They can run about an hour.
They run just over an hour.
Yeah, about. It depends on how aggressively you're shifting and
yes.
How much you're drafting here. So you can usually go just over an hour here at Daytona with all the drafting around the speedway. If you're on your own, it might be a little bit under that. But we do see here race leader Ross Banfield under fire from Mateus Carvalho. This is for, as I said, the race lead. Carvalho led earlier in this race. He was oh so fast. You shouted him out multiple times, Bryant, because he was just setting lap after lap that was faster than everybody else. He has raced his way back through the field after, as you put it, being screwed by a caution. He is now second, racing for the race lead. He's got to move here on Ross Banfield. He's going for it all as the LMP2 moves up the racetrack. That was scary, but they're going to race around NASCAR, turn forward to the stripe here with 55 minutes to go.
Carvalho, Banfield across the stripe. It's still Banfield right now, but Carvalho looking to make a move. Will he take a dive in turn one? Yes, he will. Big move on the inside turn one.
No!
Banfield to the outside. He's right to the outside wall.
Just misses it, but he's going to have to turn himself right around, baby, right around.
Banfield outbreaks himself trying to hold off Carvalho and spins to the outside of turn one.
And Banfield did just clip the outside wall there. He's going to flash a couple of drivers going by. He's not too happy at all. That was a scary moment. Scary moment. That was a big aggressive move from Mateus, and I think he'll look back on that potentially as the race-winning move for himself, but Banfield's not going to like this one bit. Here we look.
Yeah, it was a very aggressive there. You saw
there was
might have
actually
had a little bit of
contact.
That's
there
what I
was.
thought. I wonder if that unsettled his car.
There was netcode. That was a protest, okay? So race control is going to look at this. They're going to look at it in slow motion. Okay, I think there was some netcode, but he hits right there, sends that car far deep in the corner. Watch the slide here. Sliding right there. He is sliding here. Okay, and then it just finishes and spins out the rest of the way. It doesn't look like he's sliding. He is sliding just slightly, and it just spins out the rest of the way.
Yeah, so it looks like, Bryant,
Look at his wheel in the car. You'll be able to see the slide.
Yeah, it looks
Sorry,
like that netcode contact unsettled his rear end, and he just didn't have the grip he needed to break into turn one. Yep, you'll see right there. That's what
he was sliding that whole time. I love that. Dude, that literally makes me lose it. It gets me so excited because that is the kind of stuff that is what sports car racing is about. He nearly caught that, and he slid that thing forever. I love it.
And he's got wheel damage, it looks like.
Yeah, he does, but that sure was entertaining. Some skill right there. Props to you, dude. Sorry about the wreck, but that was awesome.
Being told GTD cars can go about 57 minutes on a tank. If they draft, they can go for a little bit longer. If they save, they can make it a little bit longer. It's all about when you shift. But being told about 55 to 57 minutes as Banfield gets out of the car, he must have already used a fast repair, and that's going to be it for Banfield today.
Yeah, well, and he'd have to make another pit stop even from here to be able to make it on fuel, so that's probably going to be the end of the night for Banfield. We'll have to wait to hear from Bryant about race control and what their decision is, because right now Carvello still holds the lead, but he could lose that protest with race control and have to serve a penalty. So we're just going to have to wait on that news, because Carvello could inherit a penalty. We're still not sure yet. Have to wait on race control for their decision.
Well, there you see Carvalho. He's going by Tyler Campbell. He has got a 3.3 second lead. So I'm curious, Bryant, what is a typical penalty to be handed down? Would it be a time penalty or a drive to the pit lane?
We had a similar incident at the very end of the... 1 second. Go ahead.
I think you might be listening to race control.
I was listening to race control. There was a penalty handed out. It was not to him. They're still working through a couple of older incidents like I talked about. They just haven't quite got to him yet. Can you repeat your question for me? Oh, penalties. Okay.
Yeah, what would a typical penalty for that be?
We had an incident that was exactly like that at the end of the European race for split 2. And that driver probably is no longer going to be winning the race. That announcement to come later, but that penalty that was discussed was a 30-second hold drive-through. Now, when that is assessed post-race, what happens is I will get into the car, I will drive the car down into pit lane, and I will start a timer as soon as I get to pit lane. I will do the 30-second stop and hold, and then I will drive out of pit lane. He will get the time penalty for the amount of time he loses through pit lane and the 30 seconds. It's not just a 30-second post-race. So 30-second stop and hold, post-race, it'll be added to your time.
That's an aggressive penalty. That's going to, I mean, if he gets assessed that penalty, that's going to drop him down close to 10th as they stand. I mean, he's got a 3.3 second lead or so, at least as far as my time. I'm going to refresh that just in case that's changed. But that's going to drop him down quite a ways if he's assessed that penalty. We don't know yet. We were asked to check in on one Chris Willard. Now, Chris Willard runs in the 32 car down in LMP2 currently, and Willard runs in the 10th position, 23rd overall. He has got a little bit of work to do. He's behind Joshua Angel and Dexter Castro in that LMP2 class. But Mateus Carvalho continues to lead this race, 50 minutes to go and counting. Nathan Dowd sits in second, there he is. Dalton Frederick sits in third, there he is in that orange Porsche.
Dowd and Fredericks, they've had a quiet night all night so far between the two of them, and that's why one of the reasons they've been running here in second and third. They avoided some of those earlier incidents into turn 1 and off some of our restarts past the safety car. But Dowd and Fredericks, they've been clean all night long. They're hoping to keep it that way, and I think two of them, they might be hoping that Carvello might get that penalty, because if so, Nathan Dowd would inherit the lead.
Ethan Bass goes for a spin in his GT3 Mustang. Looking here at Eric Biggs going through the Le Mans chicane. The name of that chicane, it changes every single year, it seems like.
Well, there was a deal done where there's a Daytona chicane now at Le Mans and a Le Mans chicane now at Daytona.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah, so I forget which chicane at Le Mans is now the Daytona chicane, but one of them is anyways. I just still call them chicane 1, chicane 2. But anyways, yes, the Le Mans chicane now here at Daytona, taking that name. Now, Biggs, that we're on board with, is chasing down Hassett, who just got held up behind an Acura GTD multiple times. Hassett has fallen all the way back here to Biggs. This is a battle for 5th position in GTP that we're watching. There's a similar battle between Joey Haynes and Lewis Tolan that will flash back back to in LMP2. Haynes has just made the pass, actually. Haynes goes by and will move ahead of Lewis Tollin.
And we do have news from race control on Banfield. It was determined, as I saw, I guess I should stop calling stuff out early. It was an NFA. NFA stands for no further action. And the reason was net code. And I saw that from a mile away, the net code. And that is the case there. You're not going to call a penalty because there was too much net code. And in the rules, it specifically states, if there is net code, okay, and the car wouldn't have hit them without the net code, then the penalty, there's no penalty. But if with net code you would have hit them either way, the penalty will still stand.
And that's a difficult place to enter, you know, and it happens a lot. We see netcode there a lot because you are traveling at the highest rate of speed that you see on the entire lap, 200 plus miles per hour into turn one. So what netcode is a lapse in prediction code from iRacing. iRacing runs its prediction code in the background that tries to predict where a car is going to go based on all factors inflicted on that car, whether it's input or friction, whatever it is, all the different factors going into that car and its movement. It tries to predict where that car is going to go. Now, sometimes iRacing's prediction code gets it a little bit wrong compared to what the driver actually inputs and where you I guess literally see the car. So you will see the car based on the driver's inputs, but sometimes there's that discrepancy where you see that ghost contact that we call netcode because iRacing's prediction code predicted that car would go higher or lower or just a little bit different from where the driver actually places that car. That makes contact that you don't actually see the two cars hitting. That's what we call netcode. I hope I did my best kind of layman term expression there of what netcode is. It's very difficult to explain. It takes many words, but that's my best ramble of what netcode is for those who don't know. It's iRacing's prediction code doing its best to predict where a car is going to go, and when there's a discrepancy in what the car actually does and iRacing's prediction code predicts, you see that gap in between cars where they still make contact, but you don't literally see them hitting. So that's just it gets harder with speed, right? So if you're predicting at 1 mile per hour versus predicting at 206 mile per hour, there's a larger discrepancy there, a larger difference in how that prediction can go just a little bit wrong. So you see it in high speed corners like turn 1 at Daytona, you see it at high lateral G tracks like Bristol. That's just the kind of thing that happens here on iRacing. It's part of racing on a simulator. I liken a lot of those things down to mechanical failures. A lot of stuff that happens because you're racing on a simulator is very similar to mechanical failures, Brian. That's my best equalization, I guess.
And I agree 100%. There are mechanical failures, but it's only if the driver's not paying attention or did not set up the car correctly. Or if they're pushing a car at Daytona for way too long. That happens too.
Well, down in LMP2, Ozzy Milwane leads the way. At least
yeah, it looks like these LMP2s are they're all going to have to pit, but some are going to gas and go, and others might as well take tires. So there's going to be more lengthier stops for some than others, and that's going to come into factor here.
I'm sorry, Milwane does not lead the way, Nash does.
Yeah,
yes, Robert Nash in the 96.
And that's what you said, Bryant. Who's sitting the best right now in those LMP2s on that fuel? I know we mentioned it earlier before the pit stops, but let's circle back to it now. Who's looking the best right now?
Robert Nash has too big of a gap. Robert Nash has about a 20-second gap between him and Ozzy, and that's enough to... Well, I think my timer's messed up.
Well, so that's because my sim is no longer drawing Nash's car. So we're going to see if it'll draw the car again. Like I said earlier, the fix to the flashing until I can get a new graphics card is basically you have to turn down how many cars are being drawn. There you see Nash loads back in, and it's about 20 seconds between them. So trying to show that on screen, it's a little bit difficult.
Robert Nash could take tires and floor fuel, and he'll still stay ahead of Ozzy. And where it's going to come into factor is farther back in the field with some of those other guys that are closer together. But Nash is just driving lights out. His 10 lap average is a 1:37.1. The next car is a 1:37.7. That's 0.6 of a second average for the last 10 laps. That is what, 3-4 seconds? That's a lot of time.
Yeah, that is a lot of time for these drivers to be able to go through that. And it's all looking well for Robert Nash right now. Looking back up here to the lead, this is still that 625 of Carvalho paving the way for these GTPs. And again, we talked about traffic earlier. We're pretty much strung out even through traffic now, so it's easier going. We're almost into that time where we could have another safety car, Bryant. We'll have about, I think it's about a minute and a half or 2 minutes, or we might be able to enter that 15-minute period where a safety car will be possible yet again.
Yeah, we've got about 2. Oh, wait. I just got news. Safety car is now able to be called until... Okay.
Bryant listening to race control right now over the radio.
Sorry.
You're good. You're
yeah.
listening.
Safety car is now able to be called for the next 15-ish minutes. It is now available, about 17. Really, if we have a big incident here, we're going to get another caution. And there's a huge cluster in turn 1. Look at all those cars coming through there. You hit hot spots, okay? And this happens in real IMSA. That interloop right there, the International Horseshoe, now heading towards the kink, it is a hot spot. Lots of traffic. Cars just thick, too wide, constantly. Cars hitting constantly. There's points where cars are holding up other cars, and lines of cars holding up other cars will meet other lines of cars holding up other cars, and they all meet together, and they create these massive clusters like we are seeing right here. This one's mixed with 3 clusters of GTPs, LMP2s, and GT3s, and it's actually multiple clusters.
I just want to say, watching Mateus Carvalho work through all that traffic, he is an expert. That was really impressive, getting through all that traffic as quickly as he did. He's got more to go through. Our overall race leader, there we go. He's got more traffic to work through. Goes by a Corvette there, coming up on a 2-wide situation with a McLaren down low and a Dallara there in the middle of the racetrack. Goes by them. He's got a little bit of open racetrack now, but Carvalho worked through that traffic really, really well through turn 1 all the way through turn 6 and back up onto the banking. It's a little bit easier on the banking, as I talked about earlier. He caught that early traffic nicely, and traffic seems to be the great separator between himself and the rest of the field today, along with his scorching lap time. So Carvalho, I think, has got this race in the bag unless we see another untimely caution.
Yeah, Carvalho in the last 10 laps, though, has been slower than Dowd. His last lap was an absolute stinger, and it drug his average way down for him. So it skewed my samples from the time he crossed the line when I read it and started my comment. It has changed, but he is still slower than Dowd by about a 1/10 of a second. He was 2/10 down for the last 10 laps, but it seems like Carvalho is seeing the gain and is gaining speed. It is 3.3 seconds, 2.8 seconds between first and second in the GTP class.
Yeah, and all that difference, I imagine some of it was because of the Carvalho working there through the traffic. Now Dowd and Fredericks will have to work through that exact same traffic, so they might get slowed there in that. As you can see, Dowd and now Fredericks out of that big cluster that we saw, so it's free running for those 2 cars, but we still have a pit stop to be made in this GTP class, and there's still 15 minutes available for a safety car, and that would erase Carvalho's lead.
I have noticed a skewed sample in a certain car that is not a GTP but is in the class. The Ferrari is the fastest top speed car on the track. And all of them are over 203 miles per hour. The only car that matches and gets close to the top speed is the Porsche in the GTP class. All the other cars are under 200 miles an hour.
I had heard rumblings this week that the Ferrari was faster in a straight line. It just gets up to a higher top speed. So we heard it mentioned in the SimSpeed broadcast. I believe it was Reese Gardner mentioned it. A lot of Acuras will actually pack on the downforce to get through the infield faster and faster and put the time on there and just accept that they're going to lose some time on the oval. So there's a little bit of a difference. There's give and take. Do you want to pack on downforce and get through the horseshoes faster, or do you want to try and trim the downforce and go faster on the oval to match that Ferrari? The Ferrari has very much seemed like a very popular race car down in GTP, although right now we look at the GTD race leader of Trevor Vavrovsky. He is 11 seconds, now 12 seconds ahead of Luke Wallace. Wanted to touch on GTD quickly, but to your point, Bryant, the Ferrari is very quick in a straight line.
It is insanely quick in a straight line, and there's not another car that touches it in the field. They're the fastest Ferrari is 200. Oh, pardon me. We do have an Acura towards the back that is trimmed out. It went 206 miles per hour. So these guys set up these cars completely differently, and that shows it right there. We've got an Acura going 206. There's a possibility that he carried straight through from turn 1 to turn 7, or from turn 9 to turn 11 to get his top speed there. That is possible, but it just shows these cars are all set up differently.
Who was that Acura?
The Acura was Austin Peterson. He is 11 laps down.
Interesting.
So, Bryant, explain to the viewers what you mean when you say trimmed out.
Trimmed out means, so for you NASCAR viewers, you guys remember when they put those giant spoilers on those race cars? Well, that's not trimmed out. That's trimmed backwards, honestly. And that is pushing a ton of downforce on the car, and you're acting as a big parachute. Trimmed out means is they tuck everything in as tight as they can, and all they're worried about is getting the air past the car. And what that does, it creates less drag on the race car, and less drag means higher top speed. But with less drag means less downforce on the car and slower corner speeds.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest trouble with the car trimmed out would be that area of turn 1. So while you might be faster down the straightaways and in the corners, those long bank corners here at Daytona, the inner portion of this road course of Daytona International is a bit tougher when you have that car trimmed out. Obviously, it's working for the driver of Austin, but it'll be slower in that infield.
Safety car availability will close in 10 minutes.
Just riding on board of our race leader, Mateus Carvalho. I wish we had a graphic. Maybe it's something I'll have to work on to show lap times, because he has just been insane today. Running at a 1:29.947. That is just a tick slower right now than Nathan Dowd, who has been very impressive as well. But otherwise, these two are a second up or close to a second up on a lot of the GTP field. They've got 10ths on Dalton Fredericks. They've got 10ths on Eric Biggs. About 2/3 of a second on Orlando Campos. It's impressive the times they're running. They're the only couple in the 129s aside from Tom Abramitis in a Porsche and Corbin Lenaway down in 11th spot. So these two are the class of the field right now in GTP, and it's showing. There's Carvalho, there's Dowd.
Yep.
And they're both in Acuras, it looks like.
The Acura is the fastest car. Sorry. Okay. I'm a very biased person. But I try to hide it. I'm a big HRC fan. Of course the Acura is the fastest car. Apologize.
So why is that, Ryan?
The car I've raced before is a 2008 Honda Civic with a 1.8 with a 5-speed manual transmission. There was an 18-year-old kid revving that thing to 7,000 RPM, and that car is still sitting out there in the driveway, and it's still driving 50,000 miles later after a kid sit there, pulled the e-brake, would do donuts in the snow, did donuts down a canyon, he's put track parts on it, he's put snow tires on it, went out there and raced in the snow. I love my Honda. And
was that kid you?
No, that wouldn't be me. I'd never do that stuff. No, dude, that's for professionals.
No, what? That's hilarious. Well, a little bit of bias to the car, the actor, Bryant.
Yeah, another bias is my championship on.
Sorry, that was just a moment. I'm listening to your story and watching this onboard of Nathan Dowd, and that was a moment into the bus stop.
That was close.
Yeah, so the other reason I'm very biased is the championship I have won on iRacing in the M7 Michelin Pilot Challenge. I won it in the Honda Civic Type R. And so Honda's been very good to me. I also love the Fords because of the beautiful Ford 27 that won back in 1966. Huge Shelby fan, and it just, Ford's not my favorite brand, but you gotta love these engines.
We go by the 91 of Stephen Hassett here on board with Nathan Dowd. He just got held up about 2 seconds back from Carvalho, so that really splits these two up big time. It was just a 3-second gap and change. Now it's a 5-second gap and change. That is a big difference, about nearly doubles the gap between our race leaders. That's going to change things up big time. Now, down in LMP2, Robert Nash has opened up a larger gap back to Ozzie Milwayne. It now sits about 22 seconds back from Nash to Milwayne. Milwayne only pitted 1 lap later than Nash. I think we were expecting him to pit a little bit later on into the race, but to you, Bryant, does that confirm that even he was short on fuel?
Everybody's short on fuel. Everybody's going to have to pit one more time for sure. My numbers were based on last year's number. I have not raced these cars since they adjusted them, and so that is what we're seeing here. I'm just not used to the new update at all.
Yeah, so that is one thing that can change up this entire field. When we see cars come to pit road, we can see mistakes. Earlier, when everyone came into pit road, as we look along here with leader in the GTP of Carvalho, we saw that a lot of drivers, came out on cold tires, weren't quite expecting it or weren't quite thinking about it as much. We saw spins, we saw crashes, and so with that coming up, we could see more chaos. As for just about the past hour or so, we've had pretty calm racing here. Drivers have been able to work through each other's classes and all that, but once the pit stops begin to come around, we could see a bit of a shuffle in our orders here within the classes.
Oh, one car is spun around there. That's an LMP2, it looks like, and yes, it is. That is going to be Lewis Tollin. Spun around in the West Horseshoe. He'll get passed up by Nathan Dowd into turn 6. But Tollin, who was in the LMP2 battle for a while.
He's just been fighting with Joey Haynes for a long time. They were very close to each other within a second.
I wonder if there's a replay worth looking at between them. Give me one moment to fetch that replay.
I was looking at that battle earlier on my ticker to see if there was something between the two of them. I think Tollin might have been a little bit farther back after that, but earlier they were within a second of each other trying to battle for position.
Oh, I think he just came out of the pit lane. So he just pitted.
Cold tires.
Yeah, cold tires, I think, in the West Horseshoe. Let's watch on board with him here and see what happens to Lewis Tollin. Again, he was in the LMP2 battle for a while, inside the top 5, top 3 even, and has just had multiple things go wrong.
Watch his hands here. They're going to go crazy.
Oh, I've got an even better view for you then. Here's the driver's eye POV. Here we go.
Watch him try to grab it here. Watch him try to grab it.
Nice and ginger through the International Horseshoe. Wait for the West Horseshoe.
Yeah.
Watch the jerk that's about to happen here.
Carrying a lot of speed here. Down. Oh, yeah.
Slides, jerks it. And
goodness.
He held on prey. Great job. Holding on and praying. Sometimes it's all about minimizing. That's what IMSA is. Minimizing your mistakes. That's the Daytona 24 next weekend.
And I give him props. He kind of just accepted he was going to go for a slide, right? He kind of just, he didn't even turn into the slide. He turned with it and let the car just kind of go off the race course and then jump back on. He knew he messed up. He accepted it and let it happen. And sometimes it's all you have to do to minimize the issue. is just accept it's going to happen, minimize what's going to happen as a result of it, and then get back on the racetrack as quickly as possible. That's what he did. He's now back in 5th.
Teams hire these drivers because of their consistency. Okay, they are not the fastest guys on track, but they are so consistent. They take care of their race cars and they don't wreck them. Yeah, you take them because they take care of the cars first. Okay, they can keep some sort of speed in the car. All right, and they have low I ratings. Those are the guys you want because that's what wins you the Daytona 24.
One more look back at this spin for Lewis Tollin. And you're going to see there was no outside influence. He just kind of lost it on entry. And it went right around. You can see him just kind of steer along with it, keep the hands to the right, and then get back on the racetrack as quickly as possible. No ding to the rear end there. That's impressive stuff. To go off of the West Horseshoe and not hit the wall, that's impressive.
I want to make a mention of this real quick. Carvello is in the pit lane right now. Dowd and Fredericks have stayed out. Carvello now leaving the pit lane.
Let's jump up to Mateus Carvalho.
Yeah, everybody else in GTP is going to have to come in the next 10 minutes. 10 to, oh, pardon me, let me redo my math. In the next 15 to 17 minutes, they're going to have to come in. No one's going to make it past that. We have exactly 2 minutes until the safety car period has closed.
Well, we've seen everyone be pretty calm so far, and that means if pit stops continue, if we have any incidents after that on cold tires or anything else trying to come to pit road, there will not be able to be a safety car for that. So you're looking for that clock to hit 25 minutes on the dot. After that period, there will be no availability to have a safety car within the last 25 minutes of this race here tonight. So if you're going to have your problem, have it now.
On board with new race leader Nathan Dowd. Carvalho, deeper in the field right now, works into, let's see, I believe the 5th position, yeah. Waiting on time and scoring to update on my side.
Yeah, Brian, do you think right now, do you think Dowd is thinking about staying out even longer to be able to maybe, as he looks to make the dive into pit lane here, nope, fakes us out, keeps on continuing. Do you think he's trying to stay out so that he can take less fuel at the pit stop and maybe gain some time on Carvalho?
No. What he's going to do here is he's going to run this tank dry. Remember what I said earlier, okay? The more empty your tank, the faster you're going. Okay?
Gotcha.
So he's going to set faster laps than Carvalho because Carvalho is going to have more fuel inside his tank. Okay? And so he's going to have the ability to put down faster laps, and that just might win him the race. The split was only about 6 to 7 seconds when he went into pit road, and he's got about 10 laps that he can do. But he's got to make them fast. All right, he has a fuel advantage. He's got a 10-lap fuel advantage. That might be just enough to make the difference. 25 minutes left in the race. No more safety cars. Garen Breton just came on the radio and let us all know, hey, if you all pile up now, you're screwed.
That couldn't be truer for these drivers as the words ring over the radio from race control. And so you got to be perfect from here on out, and Dowd will look to be that way because if Dowd can be perfect, he has a possibility of being able to overtake Carvalho, but he has to be perfect to be able to make that happen. So we'll continue on watching the 7 car of Dowd out here. Has the lead right now, but again, he still has to come to pit lane. It has to be perfect.
And Carvalho basically handed him the opportunity to do this, right? I mean, he pitted early, so this gives Dowd the opportunity to run later on this tank of fuel, run a lighter fuel load, and try to make some of that time up. If they had pitted at the same time, this opportunity never would have presented itself. So this is a really prime opportunity from Dowd. How it's going to work out, I don't know just yet, but it's an opportunity at the very least.
Yeah, I'm looking at the times right now. Carvalho is 41 seconds, just around the 40 mark behind Dowd right now. So if Dowd was able to come into the pit road, as we'll see, Carvalho! Carvalho involved in an incident with the GT3.
That's going to be Christian Abbott and Tyler Campbell involved. Oh, sorry, mine changed. I apologize.
Let's go back and look.
It was in NASCAR 1 and 2 at exit of turn 6 here tonight.
There was also another incident going into turn 3. Not NASCAR turn 3.
Let's see if it loads. This is...
Back. Yeah, it's right here.
Campbell on the outside. Carvalho tries to go through the middle, and that Mercedes on the inside just tracked out. You've got to be really careful of that. You've got to be way more aware of what's going on around you and keep to the inside. That white Mercedes on the inside just tracked out and caused that.
Carvalho lost almost 5 seconds to lead her down through that incident.
That could cost him the race. That might be the difference.
It definitely will be. That's a lot of time gained for Dowd and Fredericks.
I'll look back and see who that Mercedes was. Wait for it with the onboard. Coming in about now. This is the onboard with Brian Bennett, the 71 car.
And what is it? The Mercedes is your buddy. It's Campbell.
Yes, the other Mercedes involved. Yes, it was Campbell.
Yeah. Well, darn it.
Darn it, I like it. 22 minutes to go. Nathan Dowd leading the way in the Majors 2.4 at Daytona. Oh boy. I want to revisit quickly where we're going after this, because this is a wildly diverse series, and while we're racing IMSA classes at Daytona this evening, next time out, on February the 9th, it's the Intimidator. NASCAR 1987 Cup cars are racing here at Daytona on the Oval. That's the next event for the Major Series in 2025. A very wild difference from the futuristic prototypes of today to the very simple NASCAR stock cars of yesterday. And a few yesterdays ago, really. 1987 is a far cry away now, but very different races to start this season off. Then you go to GT3 racing at Road America for round 3, then NASCAR Gen 4 racing at Charlotte Motor Speedway for round 4, and then IndyCar racing at the greatest speedway in the world on May 4th for round 5. So a very wild set of circumstances to get this season started. That's a look at your Major Series schedule. We are inside nearly of 20 minutes to go rather. I'm so used to NASCAR racing, saying 20 laps to go and whatnot, but 20 minutes to go here nearly at Daytona.
Yeah, well, go ahead, Bryant.
You're talking about those 87s, man. How old were you in 87? Jeez.
Negative
That's
13.
yesterday for you?
Calling him out.
15?
Negative 13.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad we're all very young here.
Yeah, you try to call him out, Bryant. Golly.
That was a few yesterdays ago.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
Oh my goodness. Well, I was gonna say, that we were talking about it in pre-race. The series, this Major Series, it's so cool. I've never seen anything like it. Being able to run so many different styles of racing at so many different places, with a lot of these drivers being able to come in whenever they want. So it's something that's going to be really cool. And if you really have interest in that, come back and join us. We'll have it all here, the action at Pit Stop TV at our website. You can catch us on all of our socials at Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and X. You'll catch it all the action here with this Major Series.
Yeah, and the reason we can go and do all of those random series is because of the volunteers. There are several volunteers, including myself, that come in here and make these races happen and put an immense amount of work. We are not paid. I don't know why everybody thinks we're paid to do this. We're not. So like Garen Bratton today, as live admins, not being paid, and no coins, no majors credits. We're doing it out of the pure goodness of our hearts. We need more volunteers to make this happen. If you'd like to volunteer, go ahead and hit Mike Ouellette. And if you're looking for more information on the majors, go check out the Inside the Majors podcast. It's about every 2 weeks, and they talk about each round of the majors.
Here's a look at Orlando Campos working off the pit lane inside of 20 minutes to go. He will drop down the order a little bit behind Miguel Torres. And down to, it looks like, is that Stephen Hassett, his teammate, right behind him now. So things changing there. And we have to take a look at Corbin Lenaway, who just continues to put down heater after heater here of lap times. The number 566 has consistently put down fast lap times this evening, but he's running in the back. He's running in 11th after starting on pole, had issues earlier in the race and fell back quickly. Has come back from that to run these heater lap times, but unfortunately will finish towards the rear of the GTP field.
I've got to break away from Linaway real quick. Dowd has just come out of the pit lane, and he is just over 7 seconds in front of Matias Carvello.
Wow.
So that is a 7-second lead, and that all came from that incident we saw that Carvello was wrapped up in the exit of turn 6. So naturally, Fredericks will have to come pit road. Fredericks has the lead right now, but when he comes to pit road, Nathan Dowd will assume the race lead in the GTP class.
Alrighty then. On board with Carvalho. I'm going to pull up a graphic and explain it a little bit here. The bottom right graphic right now, that is tracking actually to Dowd. It says Fredericks because Carvalho was behind Fredericks at the stripe. When they get back around to the stripe, it'll update. But that time, at least, is tracking to Dowd, and we know that Carvalho's been just a little bit faster when he wants to be. Will he want to be here? Will he want to run down that 7 car? Obviously, he's got to if he wants to win this race. But it's a tall, tall order with 17 minutes to go to track down 6.5 seconds on the racetrack. I think that's Dowd ahead, maybe another car or two ahead. That must not be Dowd. There's no way that's Dowd right there. That's a slower car.
Yeah, I believe that Fredericks.
6.2 second gap. We have 16 minutes left to go. These are IMSA cars. The gapping is not as big. He's gonna have to get some luck with traffic here, and he's gonna have to manage it better than Dowd. Now, it's not about lap times. It's about managing your traffic better than he is and hoping he gets trapped somewhere. All right, on basic speed, he cannot catch him. Okay, but if he gets lucky with some lap cars, it's possible.
Well, it's possible, but definitely not probable for driver of that 625 in Carvalho. I want to take a moment back just to say it. Robert Nash continues to lead in the LMP2 class. He's up over that of now Joey Haynes by almost 27 seconds. And so it's a huge lead for that of the 96 car.
There's Joey Haynes.
Haynes, it looks like he's having a problem. On my ticker now, it says Ozzie Milwane is that second car. So my ticker was having a bit of an issue.
It looks like we might have somebody glitching.
Yeah, I think so, because Milwane is currently that car running behind Nash. That's the big interval that I was talking about.
There's looking Milwane.
Driver out of Canada. We've got a lot of drivers from all over the place racing here tonight. Awesome to see people come together. Don't know what time it is. Obviously, it's probably a similar time over in Canada, but we got drivers from other parts of the country. They got to be racing either late into the night or early into the morning, maybe even the middle of the day. Not sure what time it is at all places of the world, but it's so cool. That's one thing about IMSA that I bet, Bryant, that you can key on this as well. That is so cool. It's so many different classes and types of people can just come together for something they love and something they enjoy, even over the sim and something like this.
Well, we do have, this is the Americas region, so this is primarily America's drivers, but we do have a few international drivers that either are doing all three or doing multiples. I mean, Garen did 2 races, so he was kind of a madman, but this is a primarily America's driver base
I was
with
going
a few
on a hunch
extras.
because I saw one person from Brazil and one person from Canada.
Well, Brazil's the Americas.
Yeah, it's
Well,
Americas.
true, but it's definitely a different part of the world.
They are, so they're usually an hour or two ahead of the Eastern Seaboard, so...
Okay.
at least depending on where they are. Brazil's a pretty large country, if you didn't know. It's massive. So depending on where they are, if they're like in Rio or whatever, they're, I think, an hour ahead of the eastern seaboard, maybe 2. Pretty similar time, but a little bit later for sure, as we near 13 minutes to go. This is watching Nathan Dowd, the race leader. He has got now 5.7 seconds back to Carvalho. There's Carvalho. They get 5.3 and counting.
Yeah. Okay, I'm like, that's a little bit off. I'm like, he is actually gaining quite a bit of time on Dowd. He sees the goal ahead, and he's ready to hit it. I do have their deltas up here, and on the delta, Nathan Dowd is actually gaining on his last lap over Carvalho.
This is going to come down to the end, the very end. They're going to pass Christian Challenger here in the Rexy machine. 4.5 seconds now down the backstretch into the Le Mans chicane. Oh, that was actually a pretty good place to catch Challenger.
Oh, man. That was
beautiful. That is the kind of moves we watch him so for.
That's again some of that grip that we see out of this GTP car. You saw that he could just keep turning right and continue on. I mean, it's just so amazing just to watch these cars and how much grip, braking force they have. As you'll see again, we talked about turn 1. Heavy on the brakes here is Carvalho. Down the gears all the way from 7th down to 2nd, even to 1st at the apex of turn 1. Then back up again. Go ahead, Brian.
What happened there is he didn't like how the car was turning, and he used the gearing to get the car to turn more. You see, some guys will keep it into 2nd if the car settles right. Other guys, the car doesn't settle, they put it down into 1st to get the tires to spin differently, to get the car to settle down and push through the corner.
I thought that was going to be a crash.
There, yeah.
Carvalho dove up the inside of that BMW, and I really thought that was going to be a massive accident down at the International Horseshoe. I did not think the BMW saw Carvalho coming, but apparently he did, and gave just enough room for Carvalho to go through. Carvalho now, inside of 12 minutes to go. 4.6 seconds, the gap on the racetrack, trying to run down Nathan Dowd. He's got to go by Ozzie Milwane and another Acura there. The Acura scrapes the wall, and he gets by the Acura, now sits behind Ozzie Milwane through the Le Mans chicane. This slows him down. 5.2 seconds now, the gap.
Yeah, loses a little bit of time. Let's also not forget our class, our GTD class. Trevor Vorovsky has been out over the lead almost the entire race tonight. Most of the drivers we've seen flip between. Some of them we saw it start with Staropoli, but now it's over to Trevor Vorovsky. He's been leading almost since the beginning of this race for that incident with Staropoli, excuse me. But Vorovsky been putting on a show here in this GT3 GTD class.
We've seen Staropoli before on Pit Stop TV. He's run with the North American Racing League before in the past. So he's a name we're used to with the channel. It's been a while, though, since we've seen him here on the Pit Stop TV broadcast. So good to see him again. But Trevor Vorovsky out of the Northwest has been very impressive in this race. The 603 Porsche has been the car to beat. He's tracking 16 seconds ahead of Luke Wallace in the number 601 McLaren. That is an impressive feat over the course of 2 hours to build a 16-second gap, especially with those couple of cautions that we had.
And if I remember correctly, he's tracking down his 2nd win of the weekend.
Wow.
That's a man on a mission right there.
There goes Dowd right behind him, so he goes around that Vorovsky machine. And Dowd, what's the gap now? 5.2 seconds to Carvalho. I think Mateus is putting in the I can't think of the phrase now. He's throwing in the towel. There we go.
Hey, you never know. I think a lot of drivers know that it's never over till it is over. But right now, no time being gained on that interval to Nathan Dowd. Again, leader, made some headway. He pitted, stayed out, pitted late so that he was faster on the fuel run. Carvalho came in early, Then, once he came out, got involved in an incident out of turn 6 with 2 other GT3 cars. That allowed the gap to widen between those 2 cars. And Dowd, when he came out of the pits later on, well, he was ahead, and he's been ahead since.
So Dowd continuing to lead this race now, 8.5 minutes to go. We see him here at turn number 6 and back up onto the oval. What's the gap now? 5.1 seconds to Carvalho. Carvalho into turn 6 and out of the corner. Has got minimal traffic ahead. I say minimal, it's an open racetrack for now, so that's what Carvalho wants. But the other thing Carvalho needs here, Bryant, is for a cluttered racetrack ahead of Dowd. He needs a lot of traffic to interfere at this point.
He has to go through that same traffic. What he needs is for Dowd to go through that traffic in the infield section. All right, and he needs to go by them on the banking. That is where the time is made.
We'll see if that happens within these last 8 minutes. Once again, I got to thank you guys for being here today. It's been a pleasure joining you on the mic. Bryant Lucas with me, Scott Shive with me. My name, Andrew Cardinale IV. It has been a solid day here at Daytona International Speedway, the World Center of Racing. I was here not so long ago. Bryant, you'll be here again soon. Scott, we just need to get you to the World Center of Racing sometime soon.
Hey, I would love to join y'all and be able to come there sometime, because it's a place I've always wanted to go, no matter what class of racing it is. I definitely at some point want to make a trip to the Daytona 24 Hours, the Rolex 24, because that would be amazing. Also, definitely want to take a trip to the Daytona 500, so at some point, I'll have to come down.
Hey man, I got a tent spot for you. Just go ahead and book your flight right now, man. I got a rental car and everything, man. You just come on down. Yeah, we'll just take you home.
There we go. There we go. That's all I needed.
Open invite to join Bryant Lucas at the Rolex 24, it sounds like, but
let's go. Already to the Rolex. Sorry, go ahead.
Mateus Carvalho, 4.6 now, 4.7 seconds up to Dowd. He's closed in a little bit, but again, it's a matter of catching traffic at the right place and hoping that traffic catches Dowd at the wrong place, and so far it just hasn't been happening. Dowd continues to work on that race lead, and Carvalho just continues to catch traffic, that time in the infield, and now he'll catch this LMP2 on the banking. That's a little bit better, but losing time back to Dowd.
The LMP2s actually help these cars because it gives him somebody to draft off of for a little bit.
And speaking of LMP2, let's check in on the race leader down there. Robert Nash has been leading the way for a long time. I wish we had the class laps led. I wish that was a stat that ATVO fed us, but unfortunately we can't get it. I know he would have a lot of them, if not the most, and well, certainly the most, if not all of them. But the 96 has been out front most of today in LMP2. He's got an 18-second race lead over Ozzy Milwayne, call it now 17 seconds. So still a large gap with 5 minutes to go. He is in safe company right now, and down in GTD it's still Trevor Mavrovsky leading the way. So for the race win in each class, it's relatively decided. Aside from Dowd and Carvalho, that can still come to a head. We'll see. But you see the 17-second gap from Mavrovsky to Wallace. It is a large gap.
Mavrovsky out here like 17 seconds, but again, we look along with Mateus Carvalho, and it gapped down just a little bit now. Now it widens on the back straightaway through Le Mans chicane. Now, a little bit of the grass there Carvalho caught, but able to keep it. A lot of grip in that.
I'll Nathan Dowd leads the race in GTP. It is 5.3 seconds back to Mathis Carvalho. Dylan Fredericks behind, but he is out of winning this race without a massive incident. In LMP2, Robert Nash. Robert Nash is doing his best in the lead there. I do apologize, guys. we did have an internet drop. We were having issues, but we're going to give you the best radio coverage we can until we can get you guys coverage again. Robert Nash leading up the LMP2s with Ozzy following up behind him. It's 17 seconds back. Without intervention, Robert Nash will take it home. And Trevor Vorowski, he is 18 seconds ahead of Luke Wallace in the 601 McLaren. And that one's pretty much decided without any issues. We are watching the LMP2 class, the GTP class at the moment. It's a 5.2 split. Carvalho led the race earlier. He had an issue with a safety car and was not able to get it to happen. He had to come back from 17th position. He was the last driver in the GTP field. That is how far back he went because of the safety car's position of being thrown out. That gave Nathan Dowd a chance to come in here and come back, and he is taking advantage of it. He ran a faster lap by almost 2/10 than Carvalho the last lap around, and it's creating a nice gap for Dowd. It is now 6.1 seconds. Mistakes are being made by Mathis here with just 2 minutes to go.
Yeah, Carvalho right now just trying to continue to keep up that pace, keep back that gap to Fredericks. Fredericks 10.4 seconds back right now as he comes through NASCAR turn 3 and 4. But Carvalho right now, it was almost a Cinderella story ending for him, but it's just not going to be enough. Like you said, Bryant came all the way from the back to the front after being caught out by that safety car. He was in first before he had that incident in turn 6. Right now, he's on the front straight, going into turn 1 now. Nathan Dowd still out front by 5.4 seconds. Carvalho just trying to hide in place, run in place right now to come up with a second place finish. Nathan Dowd continues to be out here out front, down the inside of this straightaway. Going to the West Horseshoe, dives down here into the West Horseshoe, heavy on the brakes, and again, just trying to run solid laps right now. He has the lead in his hands. Again, no safety cars can come out, so the only mistakes that can be made is by your own driver. He comes off by a huge pack, a huge cluster of GTD cars right now. They split the gap. He's going to go through the middle of them, middle of 4 cars, then up high, 3 wide here in turn 7. He makes it through. Nathan Dowd navigates 4 cars, 2 wide in the GTD class.
Nathan Dowd still trying to run away. That blockage helped Mathis Carvalho. 4.5 seconds back, heading in to the Le Mans chicane. He's going to come to the line for the second to last time. It's going to be the white flag as he goes into 3. Carvalho is in contention. He's got to have a lot of traffic for Dowd. Dowd's going to have to be slowed up. Robert Nash has lost time. It's now 16 seconds to second place in LMP2. Trevor Vorowski, he is pulling away from the Mercedes of Luke Wallace, but it's all about Nathan Dowd headed into turn 1 for all the marbles. He is the number 7. He is going to get a coin for winning this race. Nathan Dowd, through the International Horseshoe, is managing this traffic gratefully through a GT3. Trying to get through this kink, he's going to have to work around Ross Banfield. He's going to have to work around Luke Wallace, pardon me. He gets around him very nicely. Now into the Western Horseshoe. He is all clear ahead. Next car ahead is Ross Banfield. 10.1 seconds away. He's going to have a clear racetrack to the end of the race. It's all him from here.
Nathan Dowd, it's all him, all eyes on that driver of the number 7. You said 7 on the car, first out on track. Carvalho, nothing able to be done, 5.2 seconds back. Right now, Dowd, clear lane out in front of him, no one out in front. He just has to make it through the Le Mans chicane and down the back turns of NASCAR 3 and 4. Clean through the Le Mans chicane he is. Now down to the banking of 3 and 4. It looks like it's going to be Nathan Dowd who's going to be able to take it all the way home in the GTP class. He rounds it out, trying to foot on the floor. He's going to go down the front straightaway, and it's going to be Nathan Dowd, the number 7. He's going to win here at Daytona.
Now eyes on Robert Nash. He is working through turns 3 here and on to the... Oh, wait. Nope, he is on the backstretch. He's going to work his way through the chicane.
Robert Nash, now he crosses through the Le Mans chicane, down through that 3 and 4, no challenge from the back. Ozzie Milwane is almost a minute behind him, and yes, I said a minute. Robert Nash has been perfection in this back half of the race. Him and that LMP2 car have been glued to the floor, glued to the track, and Robert Nash is going to win in the LMP2 class here for Daytona in the opening race of the Major Series.
Now eyes on Trevor Borowski. In his Porsche, he is trying to bring it home. He is on turns 1 and 2. I can see my campsite from here. Headed down the back straightaway now. Trevor Borowski, he came out here and he decided to dominate in these last few laps with fireworks going off on the backstretch. Down into the Le Mans chicane, the Porsche is pushing as hard as he can. The 603 wants it. He wanted it badly, and he is still pushing here on the back straightaway. Working on to 3 and 4 here. Trevor Borowski now almost 34 seconds ahead. He is going to say goodbye to the rest of the field, and Trevor Borowski is going to win GT3 at Daytona.
There we go. He's won already this weekend. He wins again for Trevor Borowski in that GT3 class. And that is it. That is Nathan Dowd, Robert Nash, and Trevor Borowski, your 3 winners among your classes of GTP, LMP2, and GTD. What a night it was for these drivers.
Apologies again for the internet drop here at Pitstop TV. It's all we can do to load back in. We may have to resort to the replay file here at the end, but it's all we can do to get back in. We have just loaded back into the sim. Go figure as the race comes to a close. But we will have interviews with our 3 winners, Nathan Dowd, Robert Nash, and Trevor Borowski. Give us just a moment here. As we work to track everyone down.
Yeah, and here goes Trevor Borowski doing burnouts on the front stretch, along with Robert Nash. Robert Nash burning it down, excited to win at Daytona, getting the W. It's a big win here. They're gonna take home Majors Challenge tokens. They are amazing tokens, very heavy, very beautiful. You should have seen the blackout one. It was amazing. And he will receive one for entering this race and paying for the season pass.
Yeah, Bryant, explain further those coins, because you sent me a picture of one, and they're really cool collectibles. Just explain that more to the viewers that might not understand what those coins are.
Those coins are earned by the top 3 in each class as a trophy. All right, it is called a challenge coins because you made it through the challenge of the Daytona 2.4. Now, you only win the challenge coin if you are a double-digit or single-digit number, because those drivers are the ones who have paid to be able to race and paid to be part of the points championship that is going to be going on throughout the year.
We'll talk to each class winner here in just a moment. Let's go through down the unofficial race results when it's all said and done. Give me 1 second to select the 7 if I can. There he is. There we go. Nathan Dowd will win this race. Mateus Carvalho in 2nd. Dalton Fredericks in 3rd. And boy, Mateus only got it down to 4.75 seconds by the end of it. That's impressive, I gotta say, but unfortunate that he couldn't get any closer here by the end of it. Ends up about 5 seconds shy. Fredericks in 3rd. Santos in 5th. Eric Biggs in 5th. Santos 4th. There we go. Biggs in 5th. Abramitis in 6th. And on down through the top 10, Orlando Campos, Stephen Hassett, Miguel Torres, and Jesse Canales there in the 10th position.
Then back in 11th, you'll have Corbin Linaway right there in the GTP class as well. Christian Abate there in 11th and 12th. Ross Banfield rounds out those lead lap cars that were still running. And then Robert Nash is the winner there in the LMP2 class. in the 96 comes home 14th overall. Ozzie Milwane back from him comes home 15th. Joey Haynes as well in 16th. Dino Vila back in the GTP comes home in the 17th overall. Lewis Tolan, Berwayne Bermuthi, and Joshua Angle round out your top 20 of the overall field.
Yeah, overall here, 21st, Scott Kennedy, Chris Willard, Kyle Decker, 23rd, Dexter Castrello, Parker Partridge, 25th, Dick Mueller, 26th, Trevor Travawski, 27th, Luke Wallace, 28th, Hugo Oliver, then Vincent Heiber is going to be 30th. Now, the 603 of Trevor Borowski is going to be your first place winner in GT3, and he comes home overall 27th. Luke Wallace behind him, GT3, Hugo Oliver as well, 3rd, and Vincent Heiber going to be 4th for those GT3s.
Down through the rest of the order, Aiden Campbell there in 31st. Dallas Pataska, he runs in the Sarah Super Series that we broadcast on Thursdays. He finishes 32nd. Brian Bennett, 33rd. Christian Challenger there in 34th. In Rexy, Lyndon Swaby in the 35th spot. Kevin Hill, 36th. Bradley Haley, Tyler Campbell, and Ethan Bass, the rest of the GTD field here inside the top 40. Austin Peterson ends up 40th. I'll quickly run down through the rest. Some highlights definitely include Jonathan Bennett, a GTP that fell all the way down to 42nd. Zachary Goddard had a lot of fun earlier in this race. We checked in with him a couple of times. We saw him in the order. He was asked what happened to the 29 car. We don't know exactly what happened to car 29, but we see him there in 44th spot. Eric Staropoli and Justin Rector in GTD cars. They end up down the order and out of the race early. Staropoli was the pole sitter in GTD. He had problems there at one of the caution flags. I believe the first caution was for his incident. It didn't come out until a little bit later. Travis Warling was an LMP2 that had some problems early, and that is it for your unofficial results rundown. We'll work down to grab Nathan Dowd, your overall race winner in the majors, Daytona 2.4. And Nathan, what a race it was. You come home about 5 seconds clear of Mateus Carvalho, but it was not an easy road to get there. How did you grab the win this evening?
Thanks. Yeah, just survived the chaos there with the incidents there early on. Just surviving. Just trying to keep up with Ross there for the first half of the race. He was very fast in that Ferrari. Hard to keep up on the straights. But then unfortunately, I didn't see what happened to him. But yeah, he got caught up in something there. And that was a shame. It was going to be a good 3-car race, I think, with me, him, and Mateus there. But yeah, just brought her home.
You mentioned the Ferrari there of Ross Banfield. You and Mateus each opt for an Acura. Is there a reason you guys chose the Acura as opposed to the Ferrari or another car?
Yeah, I mean, I practiced a bit with the Cadillac. It's just the Acura has so much advantage in the infield, it seemed for me. It was definitely getting beat on the straights. It was actually the gear stack I was redlining there before getting to the trial, even most laps. But just the advantage it has in the infield there, I was able to make up enough time. Or overall, it had a little bit of quicker pace for me personally. And then I think that also helps with the cold tires on the restarts too. It has just that much more downforce to keep from that being as big of a problem as it is for most people with the new tires on these things. But yeah, just practicing, just a little more comfortable despite the straight line disadvantage.
And you bring it home P1 overall, and of course in GTP, earn a bunch of points for yourself. Moving on, we go to the Intimidator on February 9th. How excited are you for round 2?
Oh yeah, very excited. That's always a fun event. They always like the way the majors do that event with I'm assuming they're doing the same format. I'm not exactly sure with the practice rounds, qualify, and all that. But yeah, that's always a fun race. Kind of a crapshoot. You never know what's gonna go on in that race. But last year we had a shot at it with myself and my teammate Brian. Just a little bit of incident in the last corner, but didn't end up getting it done there. But we'll give it another shot this year.
Well, best of luck to you. Good to talk to you, Nathan. Congratulations. Hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you guys.
We'll move on down to Bryant Lucas, who's got Robert Nash, race winner in LMP2.
Robert Nash wins LMP2. And man, this LMP2 car has changed, and the driving also changed with the GTPs getting a ton of grip, and the LMP2s losing a bunch of the grip and just a bit of power. But Robert Nash seemed to adjust the best, and he showed it with a dominating win in LMP2. Robert Nash, how did you handle the differences in your cars and the cars around you?
You know, it's all about just pacing yourself and the cars around you. You don't want to get hung up behind anyone, and timing's a really big thing about it. Luckily, everyone I raced against tonight was super good about placing their car where I thought they were going to go, and the race was just pretty uneventful for me, which is what you want in a race like this.
Uneventful is what you want in IMSA racing. Looking forward to the 24 next weekend. You've prepped the car, you've got it ready, and next in the series is the Intimidator. How are you looking forward to these next races with this win? There's going to be a large target on your back, and how are you going to deal with it?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This is my first year doing the Major Series, and this is a great way to start it off. I'm excited for the rest of the season, and I like dealing with the pressure, so we'll see what happens.
Robert Nash dealing good with the pressure, finishes first at LMP2. Now we're going to move on down to our GT3 winner. Scott's going to take him away.
Yeah, Trevor Bobrovsky absolutely dominates here tonight in the GTD class. Trevor, talk to me about, obviously you started this race pretty high up in the order, but you weren't out on pole. Talk to me about that incident with, I know you weren't quite involved with it, with Staropoli down there in turn 1. What did you take through that? How do you work as a driver through an incident like that to make it through and so clear, because it can be so chaotic there in the kink?
I mean, it's really tough, especially when you're in the GT3 cars. You're definitely at, you know, the prototype's mercy at time, but you know they're also at yours. It just gets so tight. I knew, you know, he was saving a lot of fuel early on, and was looking at it, and I decided, you know what, I'd rather be out front when the traffic hit and try and see if I could maybe split us apart and separate the drafts, because I think he was trying to do a different kind of strategy there. And I just wanted to hit it as hard as I could with raw pace, you know, once I got out front, and the traffic just ended up biting him. It was a real shame. I would have been really curious to know how the pace in the racing would have shook out there if he would have been able to keep going.
Yeah, since he wasn't able to keep going, we saw you absolutely dominate out front for almost all of this race after that point. Talk to me about running those laps as you're out front. You're obviously running away from the 601 of Luke Wallace. What do you do as a driver when you know you're gaining all that time? Does it get angsty ever at times? How do you run with that pressure of saying, I can't make a mistake, I have to continue to be perfect and stay focused?
Yeah, it's you know, I try to, you know, I say this to my teammates all the time for endurance races. You know, you just go out there and you try and kill them with consistency. You know, don't have those random spike laps where you got bottled up and you lost a half second and things like that. So it's staying focused and always managing the traffic and avoiding those little mistakes, and then letting the natural pace that you have just kind of come through. You know, at a certain point, you know, it kind of just turned into, you know, at times it's you know, try and beat what you did the previous lap. You do that to try and keep pushing.
Well, Bryant Lucas, one of our commentators here tonight, mentioned to me that you've already won once this weekend. How does it feel to get another?
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I haven't done a lot of winning in the majors. I don't know if this technically might have been my 100th start, you know, with starting 2 races on the weekend. So if this turns out to count as my 100th start, getting a win is really cool, especially, you know, doing it in the Americas region on the top, you know, in the top split. You know, you guys got Christian and Dallas, you know, these former champs in the majors. I've got a ton of respect for them. So being able to be number 1 over guys like that it's really awesome.
Well, hopefully more to come for you, Trevor. Until that point, we'll see you at the Intimidator.
Thanks, you guys.
That was Trevor Bobrovsky, winner over the GTD class.
And we can take a look at that full season schedule here with the Daytona 2.4 opening things up this evening. Next up, the Intimidator Round 2, February the 9th. And then we go to GT World Challenge Racing, so on and so forth, on down through your listing there. You can take a look at what your favorite race might be. I know I'm excited in particular for the World 600, the Speedway 500, the Majors 24, the GP of Miami, most of them. Really, most of them. I'm very much excited for this entire season. It's going to be a very fun year with the Major Series in 2025. Again, we apologize for the way tonight's broadcast ended. They were at the end of the race. We wish we could have had picture to the end. Thankfully, we had commentary to the end at the very least. But an issue with our ISP at the broadcast house has unfortunately put us behind the ball. It's unfortunately out of our control, but we move on and we get better, and we will see you all in the next one for the Intimidator next up on February the 9th. But I got to ask you guys each kind of final words, final impressions here from round one.
Man.
Brian, you go ahead. I was going to say.
Dude, that's like perfect timing. I don't think we could have planned that any better. This is prep. Next weekend is the big race, all right? Every one of the endurance racers that, like, I'm a prime endurance racer. That's what I look forward to. We are looking forward to that Daytona 24. That is the biggest sim race of the year, all right? The most drivers get in to drive for the Daytona 24 over any other iRacing event. All right, this is the practice for that, and we saw Nathan Dowd, Robert Nash, and Trevor Varvowski come out and just show why next weekend they're going to lead their team to victories. And every driver that is in the split with them, you should be shivering in your pants right now, because wow, were they fast. Mathis Carvalho, look out for him. He is very fast as well, but just quite didn't have enough. So, guys, these guys are mad fast, and they're looking forward to the Intimidator race. And, props to every one of them. I cannot wait to work with them in NEC.
Yeah, so many drivers out here tonight. We're so impressive with the amount of talent that they brought to this Daytona 2.4, and it's a lot to show for what is to come here in this major series. A lot of these guys been here for a while. You talked about Trevor Vorosky might have made his 100th start here tonight and won. So a lot of these guys have been with the series quite a while. We'll see them continually throughout this season, and there's some excellent work and excellent racing to come back to, and you'll catch it all here at Pit Stop TV. Like we said, it's on our website. You'll get all updates, things like that, our Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, and X. You'll catch it all. I'm so glad I was able to be here with you guys, Andrew and Bryant, because I had a blast.
And next up for us here at Pit Stop TV, we have a full slate this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Tuesday, we go to the Nashville Super Speedway with the BRB Butt Kicker Cup Series on January the 14th. Wednesday, we go to the Darlington Raceway, kind of a preview of what the Southern 500 here in the Major Series might look like with the SimRap Market Series. Of course, those guys are dedicated to running just the NASCAR Next Gen machine at these ovals. It'll be a wider variety of drivers for the Southern 500, and we'll see drivers from all walks of life in that event, but still a bit of a preview anyways on Wednesday. And then Thursday, we see the Slinger Speedway come up next for the Sarah Pierce Fleet Service Super Series. They've had 3 mystery rounds in a row where the driver didn't know what track they were going to until the session opened. Now we get a little bit of solidity, if you will. We know we're going to Slinger for this Thursday's event. Drivers are practicing, testing, doing all of their setup building throughout the week and getting ready for Slinger. It should be a lot of fun on January the 16th. We'll see you all for each of these broadcasts. Hopefully, should be a lot of fun. We're excited to keep moving forward here at Pit Stop TV. Any final words, Bryant, Scott, before we part ways?
I had a blast, and I hope to be back here at least with the Major Series or with some IMSA style racing, because this was so much fun. I'm glad to have gotten to be here and work with you again, Andrew, and as well as work with you, Bryant, for the first time. It's awesome to be here in the booth with awesome guys to be able to call awesome racing.
There's nothing better than sports car racing in my mind. Everybody will disagree with me. I get it. But I'm really excited. Looking forward to the rest of my night. Going and, looks like all the protests have closed for the majors. Everything has been decided. We are good to go. So nothing for me to do tonight, and I get to relax, I guess. I thought I was going to have a bunch of work to do. Nope, I get to relax, and looking forward to the Daytona 24 next week and the real life one the week after.
Want to give a big thank you to our partners with the channel, Whiplash Simcams, ATVO, and CC's Business, and a big shout out as well to Major's Garage being here with us for this event. It was a pleasure to be here. The Major Series is officially kicked off in 2025, and will carry on next with the Intimidator on February the 9th. That weekend is going to be a bunch of fun. NASCAR 1987 Cup cars going racing here at Daytona will be exciting. Until then, thank you for watching. Hopefully we'll see you in the next one. We'll see you next time.